in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? Really like that. You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a stupendous Monday evening. We got a loaded show for you guys as we always do, but I want to start tonight's show with this right here. Look, man, if you're ever going to overreact, if there were ever a time to overreact to a scrimmage or a football practice or something other than a football game, now would be the time, right? As spring practice comes to a close, now is the time. If you're ever going to say anything like, quote, man, we're primed for a run, or the opposite of that, which is, man, we're going to suck something awful. If there's ever a time for an overreaction like that, now and today and right about now in this time frame of the year is the time to freak out. In fact, it's probably part of your contract as a fan to be a little bit overreactionary to right about now with regards to the timing and the calendar rather of the college football sport as a whole. So when Arch Manning goes out and completes all 10 of his first 10 passes, go 10 for 10, should have went 11 for 11 if Isaiah Bond doesn't drop a touchdown pass. But nonetheless, when Arch Manning goes out 10 for his first 10, should be 11 for 11. When he goes 19 for 25 for 355 and 3 tuds, boy, you go ahead and run to that timeline. You freak out about Arch Manning because it looked good. All right. If you're a Texas fan today, freak out. If you're an opposite of a Texas fan, if you're an SEC football fan, be a little worrisome. Be a little bit over worrisome about Arch Manning's performance. Because again, now is the time. If ever a time to overreact, right now would be the time. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've watched every throw. There was a 9.5 minute clip on social media today of every single throw Arch Manning made in that football game. And I saw a very ready quarterback. In fact, I saw a quarterback that will very soon, okay, he will not need long to confirm that he is indeed a Sunday quarterback playing on Saturdays. That's exactly how I feel about Arch Manning. I think he's going to be great. I think that's awesome. That was not the takeaway from me from this football game, even though he played on time. He played calm in the pocket. He showed obvious, guys, signs of awareness of the situation around him, whether that be the pocket management skills, okay, pocket's collapsing, I got to get rid of the ball, or, okay, pocket looks a little bit suspect, I got to check the ball out, or even, hey, pocket has collapsed, it's 3rd and 3, let's find something, let's get the ground, and let's pick up the sticks, right? Just general football awareness. I saw that in spades, right? I saw a good quarterback playing good football, as, by the way, I would expect any 5-star that spent 14 months with Steve Sarkisian. I would expect that guy to go out there and play really, really good. But that wasn't the part of this football game that I would be overreacting to, even though, like I said, looked great. He looked great. He's going to be great. I don't doubt that at all. If I were overreacting to anything, however, from that football game, it would be about that defense. That defense, guys, finished 105th last year in total passing. Okay, 105th. And based off signs from Saturday, they don't look like they're going to get any better. Okay, it doesn't look like there's much room for improvement. In fact, they've lost their 2 best defensive linemen, Montez Sweat and Byron Murphy. We all know about that. They return pretty much the entire defensive back core. They lose the Costanzo. They lose Costanzo, the transfer from Arkansas. But outside of that, it's pretty much the same guys returning from a unit that was really, really porous last year and looks really, really porous this year. Arch Manning looked great. Who the hell didn't on Saturday out there at Texas? Quinn Ewers didn't play very much. In fact, I didn't even find a stat line on him. Don't think they expected him to play very much. I think he even said in the press conference after the spring game that he expected to only play 1 or 2 drives. But Arch Manning, 9 of 25 for 355, 3 tuds and an interception. Trey Owens, the third, played like the backup on Saturday, 14 for 21, 228, 3 tuds. Cole Lord, a football player I've never heard of that is the presumed 4th on this roster, 8 of 11, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns. The quarterback room as a whole, guys, on Saturday was 41 for 57, 655 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. quick math, that's 16 yards an attempt, not a completion, an attempt. 16 yards an attempt. Oh, excuse me, per completion. I actually did it on completion. 16 yards per completion on 72% passing. That defense is bad. That was my overreaction from Saturday. But again, Arch Manning looked great. Who the hell wouldn't? Or who the hell didn't, I guess I should ask, on Saturday out there at Texas?
Yeah, I was talking to Jay Will in the car, and I don't want to take anything away from Arch Manning's performance, because looking at what he did freshman year compared to this, it's night and day. Like, there's clear development there, but it's also like, yeah, you should be making those layups that they were giving you. Like, when there's not a defensive player within 15 yards of an offensive wide receiver, yeah, like, you should make a dime pass. Like, nothing to take away from what he did, because he did look great. But it's also, he did that against a very shitty defense, it looks like.
To add credit there, you still got to find the open guy.
Exactly.
Right? I don't think a lot of those were like primary reads. Some of those might be second, third, reads in the progression. But nonetheless, you're right. It was far more about blown coverages to me than it was about, my God, look at that ball. And he dropped that in a bucket.
Yeah, and to also add, like, it's good that he's shown, like, I can make the layups. If you're going to give me an easy pass, I can make that happen. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that can't do that, and that's a problem. So,
I think it's almost kind of like a double-edged sword in these spring games, because if your offense looks great, then that's great. Like, Arch Manning looking great on Saturday was best-case scenario probably for Texas fans. But at the same time, you might also come away with the takeaway that our defense looks bad. But if your defense looks great during a spring game, then it's like, oh, gosh, our offense might suck. Like, our defense might be good, but our offense also didn't look good. So I think it's also like you have to have two different takeaways, and sometimes one might mean the other one. And it's just kind of hard to evaluate.
Ironically, one of their teams won this game 35-34. I think that's how Texas is going to have to win football games this year, against quality offenses. Now, they'll handle the bottom third, or bottom half, I should say, of the SEC, I would imagine, by 2 or 3 scores this fall. Yeah. But the one day that they run up against a mediocre offense that has a great day against their defense, they might be in a shootout, or they might be in multiple shootouts throughout the year. So as I love you too, honey. As I look through the schedule of Texas, I would be betting a bunch of overs in these football games.
It's an interesting time too to have a bad secondary in the SEC, because while like right now you may not have a whole lot of like shoe-in notable guys at the quarterback position, like you still have quite a few names in the mix, and some that are kind of on the cusp, like some that might eventually get there. And so you could have a really strong group of quarterbacks in the SEC this next year, and really over the next 2 years. So a bad secondary could be a recipe for disaster at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like a bad secondary is almost always a recipe for disaster, especially in this modern age of college football, where it feels like most offenses have their biggest successes through passing. I mean, there's only a handful of teams like Michigan and sometimes Georgia where it's like they're just going to pound the rock down your throat. So it's not good that you don't have what looks to be not even a good, like, great but good secondary right now. Now again, it's overreactions, of course. Like, it could be they had an off day, could be Sark was drawing up absolute heaters all day long. So we'll see. It's not a great indicator though.
And you would imagine if you can't throw out last year's stats, and you can't throw out last year's opponent's approach towards Texas defense, but if you were to just look at it from a bird's eye view, you would say, okay, Texas's best football players last year on defense were Montez Sweat and Byron Murphy. Let's not run the football today. You know what I mean? Maybe because they were, I believe, 121st or something in attempts per game, opposition attempts per game. So they essentially they had more attempts on them defensively than anybody else in the sport, really, and anybody else in Power 5 football, really. And you would imagine, like I said, Montez Sweat, Byron Murphy can't really run the football successfully anyways. Let's chop it up to a passing attack football game today. But they weren't great at defending the pass, right? They were 125th or 120th in attempts per game and like 105 in yards allowed. So it wasn't like they were good against the pass. They were actually really, really bad against the pass.
How polarizing do you think like maybe we can ask this in Quinn Ewers' perspective specifically. How polarizing do you think it kind of feels? Like, you're sitting here, you're going into your final year of college football. By all accounts, you are a top 10 NFL draft pick in 2025, yet all the attention and everybody's just anticipating, almost kind of like we're waiting for you to leave because we're ready to see what's right behind you. Like, yeah, it's great, we get Quinn Ewers for one more year, but everybody just wants to see what's behind you. They're not worried about what you're going to do this year.
I think it behooved Quinn to just basically not play in this football game. Had Quinn been like 21 for 36 for 285, I think it gets really loud. Like it's going to get really loud no matter what out in Austin this year, especially if he struggles at all.
Oh yeah,
like whatsoever. If he struggles whatsoever. I remember I came on the show the other day talking about how I think Arch might like hang out for not only this year but maybe 3 more of like years of playing. If he plays like now again. Texas's defense really, really bad on Saturday, has been bad for a while. However, if he plays like that at all for 2 full seasons in college football, he ain't coming back for a third. I mean, he's going to be an undeniable 1-1 in the draft. So
absolutely.
But no, I think he stamped, and this is so funny that his freshman year looked like boo-boo in the spring game, right? And everybody overreacted to that. And now we have his second year in the system. He comes out and looks like God's gift to football, and everybody's freaking out about this in the inverse. And
I mean, you've got people now saying it's like, hey, should Arch Manning be the starter this year?
Saw that headline today.
Already?
Oh yeah, I saw
it's
it.
started. I mean,
local beat.
You gotta get clicks.
Yahoo.
Oh, love it. Oh yeah, that's the Arch Manning Google play right there. They went through the Google trends and were like, "Ooh, Arch Manning, let's sneak up a little article right here, brother. Got to pay the bills. Mama needs a new pair of shoes, all that good stuff." So, the articles and the talking points are already up. They're already coming. Especially if he struggles with deep ball accuracy. But I would have been more apropos to play him because of what I'm about to say right now. It's great. They return a lot of action and a lot of playing time on both sides of the football, except for their core, their wide receiver core and their tight ends core. If you look at their if you look at their depth chart right now, if you just chart, hey, who's catching balls this year? I wrote it down. 7 of their top 9 presumed targets are brand new to the program. 4 transfers, 3 receivers, including Nye Black, the tight end from Alabama. He's there as well. And then in their 2 deep are 3 freshmen. 3 freshman wide receivers that they're going to need to play and play well this year if they're going to be the Texas of last year offensively. I think they have all the indications of being able to do so, but how would you be able to fully gauge?
So is there really anywhere when you look across the board that you'd say like Texas has gotten better in this spot?
Offensive line.
Okay. Because it seems like they've kind of regressed from last year to a point where it's what?
Yo, Derek ate the car is just rude. It's just rude. Derek ate the car is wild.
That might be one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's crazy. But anyways, continue.
But no, it just feels to me like you look at last year's Texas team, and they had their flaws, but obviously it's a playoff team. And you look at compared to this year's Texas team, it's like I don't see a room where they got that much better. Now, obviously, you don't have to get that much better because it's a 12-team playoff, and once you get to the postseason, anything can happen. But I just don't feel strongly about them being like national.
Oh, running back room. You know, first year without Bijan.
Yeah.
I think Cedric Baxter was the true freshman last year. He's a second-year player now. You would presume they've gotten better there. They also have one of the better tackle tandems in the sport as well, even though I think they lost a starter. But Kelvin Banks, I think, is still there. So they've got a really good offensive line. The quarterback room, you would presume, has gotten better. The running back room, you presume, has gotten better. They return, like I said, a bunch of defensive backs and linebackers, but those guys got to physically improve before we can come out here and say that they look better. So no, I'm with you. Overall, it looks like they're a team that took a step down when everybody is vaulting higher expectations on them than they even had last year.
That's kind of what I was getting at there.
Now we've instigated the chat.
Love it.
Into fat quarterback comments. Love it. Keep pounding them out. Welcome into tonight's show. We do indeed have a loaded one for you. We're going to talk a little bit about the Dion Sanders and Cormani McClain saga that's going on out there in Colorado. We will be quick, I promise. Caleb Williams had a very, very weird interview that we felt worth talking about. It is Earth Day. Shout out to the Earth. You know what I mean? Shout out to the big sphere. But anyways, shout out to Earth. We're going to have a segment around Earth Day today. I think you guys are going to enjoy that one. I'm very, very intrigued about this JJ McCarthy eval. Don't really know what to do with it. Want to talk about it with you guys tonight here on the show. And Michael Penix, we knew was an absolute bar master because we've seen him freestyle in the midst of a fourth quarter football game against Oregon. However, he dropped some absolute hammer bars in this article that he wrote today for the Players Tribune. Felt it necessary to bring you that tonight. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. If you have not already, what are you doing? Run over to prizepicks.com today. Use promo code Brooks. You'll get a 100% deposit match. What does that mean? You put up to $100, you will get matched instantly with $100 right there in your account today. Tomorrow is Taco Tuesday, so load it up, get that account filled up with some quiche today, and then lay it down on the line on Taco Tuesday tomorrow. Get you some fun action with prizepicks.com. Use the promo code Brooks. It is NBA playoff season, boys, so there is some money to be made over there on Prize Picks. Don't miss out. All right. What did you guys think of Arch Manning's performance on Saturday?
I kind of took it away with both two different stances. Like one, like watching, you got to make the throws. It's one thing to be able to like see a wide open guy and you can say that, oh, well, that's a layup. I mean, we always say on this show, you got to hit your layups. It's important to hit your layups, and he was hitting those. And I mean, he looked good. You can't deny the fact that Arch Manning did not look impressive on Saturday. He looked like what he was supposed to be coming out of high school. And again, that's the best case scenario for Texas fans to come away with on Saturday. But at the same time, I myself also had some questions about the secondary, watching just the highlight clips. But I even saw some Texas fans in the comments of the post that I was reading saying, like, look, we know like secondary isn't great. We understand, but Arch Manning being able to do that, what he did, that's impressive. And it should be acknowledged. Yeah,
I came away from it, and I kind of hinted at this earlier, just feeling very impressed with Sark's ability to develop quarterbacks. Yeah. Because the Arch Manning we saw last year, game one of the spring game, was not the Arch Manning that we saw this Saturday. Like, it's night and day, and he looked so much more improved. And it's amazing what 1 year, and especially like he caught a lot of shit because you're a freshman, things such that you had all these high expectations coming in, but the reality was you're a freshman. So the fact that he's made this big of a jump into sophomore year, I think is very impressive.
I personally find it refreshing. Now, he has the last name Manning, so he gets to do this. Mm-hmm. But I find it extremely refreshing that we have what we all presume to be a star, or we all presume to be somebody that has a chance to be something really, really good at this position. We just haven't seen him play on a Saturday yet in a real game. And there's a level of patience that's being presented, right? This guy's going to wait his turn. And now you could say it's because he is, the next Manning quarterback. You can do all this, but he's going to wait his turn. And it's longer than he presumed, right? Mm-hmm. He entered the Texas program thinking that 2024 was going to be his year because Quinn's got 2 to start and he's going to get out. Well, Quinn comes back, and now our timeline's pushed. And instead of listening or instead of hearing all the narratives this offseason about, does this mean Arch Manning needs to get out of here? In fact, the moment Quinn decided he was going to come back, the Arch Manning camp was like, no, we're good. Publicly, no, we're good. We're going to sit right here. I find that refreshing. Again, don't know if it's ever going to happen again with a caliber of quarterback this good, or this presumed good, but I find that refreshing that we got somebody waiting around.
Do you think that's in part because of the way the NFL is kind of, I don't know how to say it, not really looked away or discriminated against quarterbacks because of their age? Like Michael Penix is going to be a first-round pick this year. There's a potential that Bo Nix is. These are like guys that are like deep in their careers. Yeah. So it's not like if you're not 21 and entering the league, you're behind at this point. Like you can have those years where that extra third and fourth year where you're getting developed in college.
Yeah, I think honestly I would call this the Brock Purdy theory. I think this whole idea of 25 starts, it's not new to college or pro scouting, but it is very relatively a new hammering point because Mitch Trubisky did exist. Trey Lance did exist. Mac Jones did exist in first-round draft picks. I don't know if those guys are going to get picked like that anymore without a real extensive background of like career starts. So yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head of the idea that almost age is preferred now. Mm-hmm. Like experience is preferred over just, well, he's traitsy. Well, he's traitsy, but we don't know what the traits are. Like we don't know how good they are. And that's something we're going to talk about here in just a little bit with JJ McCarthy. I think, he's got the amount of starts. He's got the amount of games played, but we don't know anything about his, ability to throw the football at the rate, not at the ability, at the rate that is required on the NFL level. And we'll talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. But I want to talk about this Dion Sanders and Cormani McClain story. We obviously talked about Cormani last week. And again, we'll be quick here because we did hit on it last week, that Cormani was entering the portal. And, the narrative around this has been directly from Dion. Dion has been very honest, or at least very upfront. I don't know the honesty of it because I don't know both parties, but you presume the coach to be telling the truth when speaking about his players. Since Cormani has gotten there, what was it, last January? Since Cormani has gotten there, or maybe last summer, it has been very tumultuous, right? It has been very much so. Cormani doesn't want to practice the way we require. Cormani doesn't want to lift the way that we require. Cormani doesn't want to go to class and do the things that are required for Cormani to play for us, right? So I get that. That's the coach's perspective. Cormani McClain goes on YouTube yesterday on a pre-recorded kind of video message. I think it was 15 minutes long, and takes time out of his day to basically say he wants to go somewhere where he could be developed and where, quote, they aren't worried about the clicks. While obviously running up about 40,000 views on this YouTube video, all, whatever. On this situation, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm talking about like 99.9% of the time, I tend to side with the football coach because it doesn't behoove the football coach to lie in this situation. And in fact, it behooves the football coach to kind of set a standard and hold everybody to that standard. And I have this to say, man. Like, if Dion Sanders has proved anything to me as a football coach, one thing I've learned is that if you're good enough, it won't matter. Like, if you're a good enough football player to play for him and he trusts you to play for him, it does not matter. We've seen retreads on this football team that have not just been asked to leave. We've seen retreads that have been kicked off programs. Like, get out of here. We're done with you. They end up at Colorado, and they end up playing at Colorado. He took a defensive end a couple years or last year that was like, we don't want him here. We don't want him here. We don't want him here. We'll try him at Colorado. And I think he played for them a good bit last year. If he has proved anything, it's that if the squeeze is worth it, he will deal with whatever juice comes out as long as he can use the juice, right? That is what he has proven. And honestly, man, this is the way I think about this. If you're too much for Dion Sanders, you're probably too much for me. That's probably just my opinion on this. Like, I hate to break everybody's or break some news here, but I would imagine Dion Sanders was not the easiest football player to coach. Just going to throw that out there. A lot of distractions when Dion Sanders was playing. Not only was he like the most flamboyant football player ever, he also played baseball. You know what I mean? Like, right. This was not an easy guy to manage at all, ever as a football player. Okay, so if there's any football coach that knows how to deal with distractions, it would probably be the biggest distraction ever himself, right there. If that guy can't figure it out, what makes me presume I'm going to be the one to be able to do it? In fact, Cormani's high school football coach is on the record talking about this. We liked him to go to Colorado because we knew Dion could put up with all this. And Dion can't put up with it. So, like, where are we at in this situation? I am normally going to reside on the coach's end of this, especially if the coach has a really extensive background on dealing with and being a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some people have gotten caught up in thinking that Dion's just throwing the kid under the bus to save his own face, like blame it all on the kid and that he's not taking any blame. But again, I said this last week, I think it's great and refreshing that we have someone like Dion Sanders who is going to be brutally honest with people and be brutally honest with the public and let them know what is going on with situations like this and just let us know, like, straight up, like, this is what he's got to do. He's not doing these things. He hasn't met these standards, and this is why he's not going to play here or why he's not playing here right now. This is what's going to follow him. And if he can get it figured out, then he's going to be great. But I think that Dion has done a good job of just being honest. I think it's honestly been better almost for the situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to side with Cormani on this, just but based on like looking at the two sides of the argument, where one is like, I just didn't really want to play for someone where there's clicks, as opposed to, well, this kid doesn't do X, Y, Z that is required to be a collegiate athlete at all levels, not just here at Colorado, but at all levels of this sport. So I don't love the attacking him for the whole clicks thing, like the irony of that, just because I feel like any major person who speaks on a platform is going to be quote doing it for clicks. Like,
we are.
People,
right
people gave Dan Lanning shit for calling out Dion last year in his pregame speech. Like, oh, you're doing the same thing. So that I'm not holding against Cormani, but the fact that it is Dion Sanders, and like you said, it is someone who has traditionally been not necessarily hard to deal with, but a handful, or it's somewhat an annoyance to others. It is not a bad look that guy can't get you under control. Yeah,
hard to deal with is not the word I would just like distraction.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to have to answer questions in your locker room about Dion.
Yeah.
You
That's
know
a
what I
better
mean?
word
Like
for
that
it.
is a distraction. It's not a problem. It's not, anything like that. It's just the reality of the fact that this is a large figure that causes, attention. Creates attention towards him. The whole idea about like, man, again, it's not ran like a military operation up there, man. Like they let kids skip practice. Well, it's his kids. They let his kids skip practice to go do like fashion walkways down runways and shit. Like this is not a place where it's shut up and play football. This is like a distraction, approved environment. And again, he has been very adamant about talent wins. We are all about making this roster better. There is no doubt that Cormani McClain is an immensely talented football player. It's why I truly believe he's going to get another run. It might be at a very, very big school that thinks they have a better opportunity to, control is the wrong word, but be able to deal with these distractions, right? And be able to handle all these things and get this kid or this young man to do the things required to be as great as he possibly can be. I doubt he ends up at a small school. You know what I mean? Right. He's an immensely talented football player. But again, if Dion can't squeeze that out of you, if he's not going to risk all the other stuff, there must be a lot of other stuff. That's what I presume.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
All right. Speaking of other stuff, a lot of stuff in this Caleb Williams interview. Did y'all watch this with the pivot and Ryan Clark?
Very interesting.
How do you think he came off overall in this interview? Because I'm going to read the audience some of these quotes, and everybody knows Caleb Williams thinks highly of Caleb Williams, but I didn't expect this.
I don't think Caleb Williams did his image or his perception or people's perception of him any favors with this interview.
None.
If you like Caleb Williams, you're going to walk away with this thing, yeah, that's Caleb Williams, that's who he is. If you are on the fence about Caleb Williams, this might have tipped you over to not liking him. And if you don't like Caleb Williams, this is going to be like, this is why I hate him.
Oh, this is fuel.
Yeah.
This is fuel for you. This is a bookmark tweet for you the moment he throws 3 interceptions in a football game. These are the types of interviews that when you go do them and you say the things, not just the words that he said, but the way that he said these things. And I'm going to try to impersonate some of these things, but I'm not going to be able to. The way that he said some of these things that I'm about to read you were the kind of stuff that makes people prey on your downfall, that makes people like root for you to not have success. And then when you don't have success and you go on Twitter or you sit at home and your woe is in me and why is everybody picking on me? It's because of shit like this, okay? It's because of shit like this that you put on the record and on the tape. First and foremost, I think the one that went most viral was him basically saying he was mad at Lincoln Riley for playing Spencer Rattler, who at the time was projected a first-round draft pick and was projected to win the Heisman. He was the Heisman favorite. Mm-hmm. And Caleb Williams was a true freshman, saying, basically he kept going into Lincoln Riley's office and asking him like, hey, what do I need to do to win this job? Because I feel as if I'm better than this guy. And Lincoln just tell him, quote, keep going, keep going, keep going. And he said that basically he had resentment for that. He was upset because he felt like he had done enough to win the job over the first round draft pick.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see. And I get the whole believing in yourself, betting on yourself aspect of it, but that's the supposed Heisman front runner to start the season. That's a supposed first overall draft. It was him and Sam Howell, like 1A and 1B coming into that year. To be like, I should be starting over this guy. I respect it, but it's also like you have to be realistic and understand, like, okay, I'm not starting because of this.
I mean, it's one thing to think that about yourself and one thing to believe in yourself that much, but,
act on it and speak on it?
Yeah. Like, some things just need to stay in the old noggin, mm-hmm. Keep it to yourself. Like, have that type of attitude. I think people want their quarterback or position players or any player at any position have that type of attitude about themselves. But voicing it in that type of manner and continue to talk about it now, like right before you're about to get drafted, like it just does you no good.
And also, like, Ryan Clark asked him, so why did you go there? Like, you knew this was the situation. And he goes, I want to get developed. It's like you came into this understanding like it's going to take a process of you taking steps to get better, but you think you should be starting day one. You think you've done enough for it. It's very interesting.
Chad's pointed out a good point. He resented that so much because here's how this Pivot podcast works. I don't know if you ever watched an episode, but the first thing they do is ask the guest, what's a moment in your career where you've had to pivot, right? And he goes through this first, moment of trouble really in his career, moment of not even self-doubt. This is doubt about the other people around him's decision-making process, right? I'm good enough. Why aren't these people seeing that I'm better than this guy? And Ryan Clark was like, basically what you're saying is like, why is that a pivot? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you went in there, like, that guy's good. You thought you were just going to go in there and walk over him? And Caleb was basically like, yeah, I mean, I was better than the guy in practice. I felt like I was better than him. So I wanted to know, why isn't this happening? And then he went on to talk about how, once I took the job, I was going to make sure nobody else got it. And he did exactly that.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the exit for Spencer Rattler. It was not the greatest moment for Spencer's career. But this whole idea of not necessarily overestimating his value, but this whole idea of overestimating where his stance is in the world of football started at a very young age, it sounds like. It
comes off as very entitled, I think.
Yes.
And that's never something you want to be this day. And especially with all these, older people who watch sports and go, oh, these kids nowadays are so entitled and all that. Like, coming off and saying, like, I should have been starting day one. I was better than that guy. And I resented the coach for it. It's not a good look.
No.
Like, you can be as right as you are. That can be how you feel, and that's fine. Like, if that's truly how you feel, that's fine. But understand that putting that out into the ether is not a good look for you.
So he was then asked about his pro day, which if you haven't watched his pro day, it wasn't much of a pro day. He basically showed up and threw for the wide receivers that are getting drafted, Brendan Rice and all those guys. Mm-hmm. And he was very robotic in his pro day. They didn't scramble him at all. They didn't roll him at all. I hardly believe at all, if at any. It was very pro style, feet in the ground, 3-step, 5-step, 7-step, play action, simple shit. And Ryan was basically setting him up to ask him about why he went about doing this pro day. Very boring pro day. And his answer, and before Ryan even got the question out, his quote was, yeah, that was me going back to the trolling and smart-ass version of me.
Ugh.
Basically saying he wanted to troll and be a smart-ass to all the critics and show that he could do the pro-style stuff. And then went on to say that if you look at the stats, I'm the most dead center quarterback available, but I just make more highlights doing the other stuff than the other guys. That's why they talk about me like that, because I just make more highlights. And then went to go on to explain what a graph looks like to Ryan Clark, saying, how there's a x-axis, there's a y-axis, and an x-axis.
Yeah, there you
Y is vertical. There's a y-axis and an x-axis, right?
It's been a while.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm over here, right? I'm over here, and everybody else is right here. And then went on to say, quote, I can do anything and everything as I want to.
Do you feel like when Caleb Williams says stuff like that and he puts,
Do you think he's cooking? Do you think he thinks he's cooking?
I'm sure he thinks he's cooking, but
yeah, I bet he's like, yeah.
But do you think
that one up?
Do you think that is actually Caleb Williams, or do you think that's a Caleb Williams that is putting on kind of a persona or facade, trying to cut through the?
This strikes me as a Caleb Williams, or as a individual whose dad told him at 16 years old that he's going to reset every market he's ever walked into. Because that's the reality of this situation. And look, there are a lot of parents like this. Caleb's dad is very well reported as this type of human that out of high school said that he was going to redefine market plans. Okay, out of high school said he was going to do that. And then right before his draft eligible year in college football, basically told reporters that, hey, we might just hold out on the draft entirely. We might just, because of NIL, we might just come back. If we don't like the team that's going to be up first, we might just do this, right? This guy that has told his son, we have all the leverage in the world, probably came with some sayings and some talkings of, you're the greatest, right? My stepdad used to say, I ain't gonna pump sunshine up your ass, son. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna pump up and hype you up only for your downfall, right?
Right.
This seems to me like, and granted, I have been on the record because I've seen it. This is the most talented human I've ever seen throw a football. Because I've never seen Pat Mahomes throw it in person. Never seen it. But this is the closest thing that I would imagine there's ever going to be to that guy. Will he play like that? I have no idea. I have no earthly idea what this is going to look like on Sunday. However, you put him in T-shirts and shorts, and you give a ball in that damn dude's hand, and everyone to a man will say, that guy throws it better than anybody else out here today. So I understand why he feels this way. I understand why, as an 18-year-old kid, he goes out to Norman, Oklahoma, and looks at Spencer Rattler's 6-foot butt and says, you're not me. I'm better than you. Well, I watch us throw every single day in practice. I understand why this guy thinks this way, 100%. Does that mean you speak on it? No, you do not. However, we saw the GQ shoot. We seen it. I seen this dude in shoulder pads with no shirt underneath with his nipples out on GQ. I know what he thinks about himself. I know he's in a Sherpa suit over there. In an orange Sherpa suit. Spin that camera. He's in an orange Sherpa suit over there, shooting for GQ. He was wearing mesh nets with the nips out on GQ. This is who we're talking about. So yes, I 100% believe this guy thinks everything he says about himself.
Okay.
However, again, and not saying he ever plays the victim, but you are never, ever, ever, the moment moving forward to your career, ever allowed to play the victim. You can't. Why people hating on me? Why everybody rooting on my downfall? Oh, I got haters in the grass. I got snakes in the grass. Yes, because you talk like this. You can't talk like this. Humility comes before the fall. Everybody knows this.
Yeah. I just feel like watching Johnny Manziel and watching Cam Newton in their primes, and they obviously, like, it was very easy to dislike them, especially if you watch a team that played against them. But it felt like when Cam Newton talked, he was being Cam Newton. When Johnny Manziel talked, like, he was truly, like, those were the true versions of the self. With Caleb Williams, it feels kind of fake to me. It feels kind of forced. It feels kind of like an act. And that's probably what makes me a little turned off to it, because it just doesn't feel genuine.
We got questions about the meme wall. I think we should talk through the memes right quick. Just because we can around here. All right, so meme wall. For those of you who noticed, spin me back to 2 right quick. We have memes on the wall here. This one's been here for a minute. The Buffalo was on the wall for a fat second too. Now we moved all the memes over here to the meme wall. Okay, we got Free Our Boy Hooley, Big Penix Energy. We got First Down MFer. That was South Carolina 2021. That was the 42-point blowout, right?
That's 2022.
2022. Then we got Dabo dressed as Joel Osteen. That's a good one right there. Okay. Favor to the abundance of joy. We got Caleb Williams. We got I'm not going to, so quit asking. And then we got Dan smoking a big old stove when he came on the show. So yeah, we got the meme wall. We need to add some more memes to that. We also have Devontae Smith over there taped to the wall because we forgot to add any type of Alabama players to the mural. So we had to put him on the wall.
I was wondering what he was doing over there.
Yeah.
He's just hanging out. We don't have any Alabama players. And here's the reason why. We got everybody else, right? We got all the meaningful college football players. I put it to you guys. Who's the face of Alabama football? Not named Nick Saban.
I'd probably go Julio, but that's more based on his NFL career. That's what I would do too.
Yeah, but you're from here. You're an Atlanta Falcons fan. You're a Raiders fan. But yeah, anyways, I didn't know. I didn't know who to put up on the wall, so they didn't make it. We got everybody else. Sean Taylor, Joe Burrow, Tim Tebow, Calvin Johnson, Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, or as we call him around here, Lamar Snackson, Reggie Bush. We got a bunch of good ones over here. So yeah. Anyways, there's that right there.
I was gonna say, do you think that maybe this was maybe Caleb trying to make up for maybe any of these accusations of him maybe being a little soft, but he comes on this podcast and now he's acting like
I think he tried to come off as this super intellectual, confident being. And I don't know when these things were timed and when they were released, but Victor Wembanyama had a very, not similar interview, but he had a very sit down podcast interview type stuff going on. And he basically said, I'm immune to temptation. Said, I don't party, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't do any of this thing because I'm comfortable within myself and I'm, quote, immune to these types of temptations. Felt that was a little bit hey, buddy, who are we? Who we think we are? Jesus Christ right here? Let's be easy, bro.
Reached enlightenment.
I mean, let's calm down a little bit. I know you're 7'5" and you can shoot a ball, but immune to temptation is a little bit much. But Victor, Victor comes off as like super humble in every other interview. Caleb does not.
Yeah.
Caleb comes off as someone who believes he's the number 1 overall pick and not just speaking it fake confidence wise. All right, Earth Day is today. Can you believe it?
I could believe it.
Honestly,
Shout out to the Big Sphere.
I didn't even know it was Earth Day.
Yeah, actually, I knew it was Earth Day because the kiddo comes home nowadays and tells us like, teacher talked about this today. So it was indeed Earth Day today. Explain the segment there, Jay Will.
So, Earth Day is all about sustainability of the environment and all things of like that. And so, what do you do to help the environment? Everybody thinks, you pick up trash. So, I was thinking, well, let's have a segment centered around Earth Day, College Football Edition, where we get to pick the trash that we want to pick up around college football to make it a better place. Like our ideal world of college football. What kind of trash are you picking up off the ground or picking out of the sport to make it better, more sustainable? So, Christian, we can go ahead and start with you. What kind of trash are you picking out of college football?
All right, so the first one I'm going to go with is ejections for targeting. I think that rule is so outdated. It's been in place for 11 seasons now. The fact that a player can make contact with an offensive player's helmet when they are the ones initiating, the offensive player that is such bullshit to me that the player is then ejected for the rest of the game. Or if it's in the second half, you have to serve a suspension in the first half. Go to basketball, make it a flagrant 1, make it a flagrant 2. It's fine keeping the 15-yard penalty. I understand you're trying to keep players safer, but does a player really need to be ejected for an entire rest of the game off
Incidental
of one hit?
contact versus he hunted that dude's skull.
For sure.
I can see it. Lewis Scene.
Yeah.
You got to go, buddy.
Yeah.
When you hit Kyle Pitts like that, they should have suspended your ass for the second game of that. Jesus.
I think
it was a death.
I always think it's funny, too, that professionals are not ejected for targeting penalties. Like, the best of the best are not ejected. And yet, college athletes were expecting, you got to be perfect throughout this entire game or else you got to go. So, I'm good with that one.
I got one for you.
Let's hear it.
The saying, to be more like the NFL. I want to get rid of this from our college football vernacular. Every rule change we've had, whether it be 2-minute, whether it be the clock not stopping after first downs, whether it be the kickoffs that are going to come down the pike, I guarantee within the next 2 or 3 years, whatever it is, I am so sick and tired of the game of college football changing because of, quote, we want to be more like the NFL. Here's a news flash for you. I don't like the NFL. I don't watch it. I don't watch it hardly at all. Most of that's because we're busy, right? We're doing other stuff around college football, but it's also, to me, an inferior product. I don't like it as much. It doesn't have as much pageantry to me. Also, the gameplay is totally different. Okay, apart from the Philadelphia Eagles, ain't nobody out here running read options. Ain't nobody out here running RPOs. Ain't nobody out here running fast-paced offenses. Nobody. Ain't nobody out here really running the air raid in pro football. In fact, it's like 12 teams trying to be Kyle Shanahan, 5 teams trying to be the New England Patriots of old, and then some smorgasbord of some different football identities. But there's no true football identity to NFL football. They all kind of look the same. They all kind of do the same stuff. College football feels different than the product we're provided on Sundays. And guess what? I like that. So quit fucking with my stuff. Quit telling me you're doing it too because you want to be more like the NFL. I don't care.
I like that.
So that would be mine.
Preach.
I like it. One of mine was any jersey with neon in it at all, except for Oregon. Oregon gets a slide here. Oregon has proven that they can do this.
Grandfathered in.
Any other time that we see programs try and flirt with neon in the jersey or anything, it's been atrocious. Like Michigan State's, we all remember those. The dark green with the neon state across the chest, putrid. Get those out of the game. And then also, South Florida tried this as well, where they had a whole neon green top. Not here for it. It just looks horrible. Just stop doing it. Stick with your traditional uniforms. Just keep that trash out of here.
I think your offense is with neon green because Oregon wears neon yellow.
Well, there's also
they don't wear bright piss green, do they?
I can't remember.
First of all, if you're pissing bright green, go see a doctor. But anyways,
well, that's really the only color in football I feel like you can work neon with. I don't know if any unless you
anybody out here rocking neon pink,
no neon yellow or anything like that. So really, yes, most of them are centered around neon green, but just keep neon out of it, man. We don't need to look like XFL teams or anything like that. Just keep your college football brand.
I got one. non-traditional neutral site games. Now you can keep Texas, Oklahoma, you can keep Georgia, Florida,
but the Bens can piss off.
Exactly. Why do we have to have week 1 where it's 2 top 10 matchups where teams that don't play each other every year? Why do we have to travel to Atlanta for that game, or why do we have to go to Charlotte? Why can't we do a home and home with that? When Georgia and Clemson played home and home in 2013 and 14, it was so exciting. Like, those stadiums were raucous, and now you're gonna have that game played in Atlanta. Like, yeah, it's gonna be a big moment, but I feel like you're taking away from a great opportunity to have this major moment in sports where it's, we're going to play in an NFL venue instead, which, by the way, it's going to have 20,000 less people seated.
Yeah.
It feels ridiculous to me.
And it's going to be fake neutral.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to be futural.
Yeah, it's almost
where
always
you
that.
guys are going to play a game, LSU and Florida State, out there in the Superdome in New Orleans. And then next year, you can play in Orlando. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Might as well just travel with each other.
Super seniors, do away with them. Now, look, I think it's great. It's awesome. Play as long as you want. I played 5 years. I mean, shit, I was there for a fat minute, okay? I get it, but it's kind of time. It's kind of time to move on. And also, it makes my job really hard in terms of counting scholarships. So just for a purpose, like a selfish reason, that's great. You get to extend your dream of playing this lovely game of football. Piss off. I'm tired of it. I'm just kidding. But not really.
My second one, the Heisman Trophy becoming a quarterback award. I miss the days where we had a conglomeration of different athletes and different position players in New York for the ceremony. Like, they were at least represented. Now, I feel like you hardly ever get represented unless you're a wide receiver of someone like Marvin Harrison or Devontae Smith, the likes of those people. I miss the days where there was just, you had a linebacker like Manti Te'o there. Like, we had defensive presence there. We had running backs there. Now, it's kind of the base taken out because everybody has it of it's become a quarterback award. But I do miss the days of where it was truly representative of who we felt was the best college football player. And I think we've kind of stepped away from that.
I agree with that. This one might ruffle a couple of feathers, but fines for rushing the field. I think rushing the field is one of those pageantry things that college football has.
Except for Clemson.
I'm fine with them doing that. Like, I get it, it's dumb after every game. It's corny when you beat Charleston Southern by 3 points and you still rush the field. But I feel like that's what makes the sport of college football unique. Like, you never see NFL teams have their fields rushed, even if they win the Super Bowl, things such as that. So I like the idea of being able to rush the field. I think that the fine part of it's kind of dumb, and I think that the idea that it's something that needs to be stopped, or even rushing the court for that matter, like, leave it alone. It's fine.
Let's be quick here because we got a bunch of stuff still left, including my JJ McCarthy rant. Can we get rid of the second transfer window? Can we just make it one? I think that will change a lot of the bitching, moaning, and complaining from college football coaches about the calendar in and of itself. I would set it for January. God forbid you got to wait a whole year before you can quit on the college that you're playing for right now. I think it might behoove some of these young men to sit around for a full calendar year instead of quit after 4 months or whenever the decision comes up, because that's when it is, right? Most of these kids lose a battle in the spring. That's why they're entering right now. Well, buddy, why don't you just hang out? Why don't you just hang out in November or until September? And who knows? That guy in front of you might pop an Achilles. And then guess what? Guess who's a 15-game starter now? You. All you had to do is wait around. So many of these guys just tapping out and leaving early, and so many coaches leaving the sport or complaining about the sport or will leave the sport because the calendar's just too messed up.
My last one, Virginia Tech's mascot needs to be thrown away in its entirety. The costume. The costume. Have you seen the costume?
Yeah, the little thing hanging over his nose.
Look, a mascot is supposed to look a little intimidating, got some fight to it like a typical mascot. Not this one. This one looks like something that your fifth grader would wear at his Thanksgiving freaking play. That's exactly what this looks like. It looks derpy. It looks stupid. It looks like someone's mom sewed it together in their closet at home and needs to be thrown away and completely redone. That thing is atrocious.
I would argue.
I like the Hokies, but the mascot, not here.
I would argue Notre Dame's mascot is lamer. It's just a guy dressed up in a leprechaun suit. There's nothing intimidating. It's just some random dude.
This guy looks kind of sketch.
Yeah, I meant to get a picture of it and I forgot to. But
don't worry. We got cameras that move for the audience because we're super high tech around here. He does look kind of sketch.
And he's got
I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's just, it looks
Is
lame.
he a turkey?
I mean, it's a Hokie.
Are Hokies turkeys?
They gobble.
I feel like it has to be that. What else would it be?
You're right. You got any other ones? I got two more.
Yeah, I got two more. I can skip one though. I think conference realignment. We all agree that's something that would behoove the sport.
I got one that ties on into that though. I want to talk about it. Can we get rid of TV alliances?
I like
Meaning
that.
Like ESPN's SEC, Fox is the Big Ten. And here's why. I don't care if y'all have your own TV packages. That's fine. But your TV alliances have completely removed the ability for us to have a college football red zone. And screw you for making that happen. Okay? I can't sit here and binge watch 7.5 hours of commercial-free college football because the Big Ten TV network and the SEC network can't figure out how to, work together. Y'all got this massive alliance right now, and y'all are going to come together and make a super league anyways. So why don't we just make the audience happy and just agree that y'all can be competing networks and work together, like they do in the NFL. Not to go against my number one thing that I want to get rid of, but if we were to take anything from the NFL product, why can CBS and Fox work together on Saturday, but you guys throw a hissy fit on Saturdays? I don't get that. I said Saturday twice. Why can y'all do that on Sunday and not do that on Saturday? That makes no sense to me. Okay? Especially because I might pay like $100 a year for that. I would pay an exorbitant amount of money. Product. Nothing crazy, but I would pay a large sum in one lump sum to make sure I could watch that on Saturdays.
For sure.
Last one I have, this is just a personal preference of mine. The rule that you can't have tinted visors. I think it's bullshit. I know the idea of, it's to keep them safe from having concussions and be able to look at their eyes. Just take your helmet off. And if they're that hurt, there's buttons on a face mask now. We can pop it off so easily. I think... Go back and look at the 01 Miami Hurricanes and those tinted visors, dude. They were so clean.
Rainbow visors, dude.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. We had it all, dude.
Dude, there's a photo. One of the sickest photos I've ever seen is of, I think it's of Sean Taylor. He's like pointing at the camera, and the visor lens is the stadium that he's in, and you can see hundreds of thousands of people, it looks like, in his lens. I'm with you. The not even the tinted visor. Give me the rainbow visor back.
Chrome,
that one Sean Taylor's got on up in that photo up there. That thing is sick, nasty. I don't know if you're gonna be able to get there because you might have to spend 4 to it, honestly, because of the light. But anyways, Sean Taylor had one of the sickest visors in the world, and I'm oh my God, look at that thing.
So tough.
Come on, RIP. But that thing is tough. He didn't get to wear it in the league. Also, Sean Taylor did something that he doesn't have it in that photo. Sean Taylor, when he got to the Washington Redskins,
would tape the face mask.
Tape the face mask. It was sick as shit.
Yeah.
Everybody taped their face mask after that.
He got a fine. He would get fined for it every game, dude.
And just pay it anyways.
Legend.
Shout out. All right. Last one. Can we get rid of pay for play? Okay. I'm fine with it. Kids are making money. I want kids to make even more money, and here's how. Just give me some rev shares. I know it's really, really hard to do. I know the NCAA is going to fight it till their teeth and till they're dead in the coffin, and the only reason they're doing that is because universities don't want to do it. I understand that the power brokers that be in college sports do not want to give a percentage split of revenue to the revenue-producing athletes. However, it's the only way we're ever going to get any type of competitive balance that we've never had in this sport. This sport used to be big schools paying in bags. Now it is rich schools paying in cash. Can we eventually get to the Big Ten gives a portion of revenues from their $40 million annual TV contract to each individual school? Can we not do the same in the SEC where it's 36 some odd million dollars, whatever it is? Now, look, there's going to be a competitive imbalance to what I'm proposing right now because these TV contracts are not on par, meaning the Big Ten makes more per school than the SEC. The SEC makes more per school than the ACC. The ACC makes more per school than the Big 12. I understand this, but at least we know what it will be. Right? At least we can set a value to it. At least we can set market value to it. And that's the way I would go about doing it. And you don't even have to do it like, hey, give 5% or give 10% or whatever. You can say give X amount of dollars out of the TV revenue to each individual athlete, meaning $150,000 net salary, period, point blank, all 85 scholarship guys. Take that out of your TV revenue split. Well, my TV revenue split now just got cut into a more percentage portion at Florida State than it does at Ohio State. Sorry. It is what it is. Okay, find money elsewhere. But we got to get to a point where this stuff is some type of balance. But anyways, it's not going to be balanced anyways because they're just going to have the rev share and then they're going to pay out of pocket through NIL, whatever they want to do. Some type of competitive balance. And I'm not just talking about as of recent. The sport's never had it. Okay, I suggest y'all read Vince Lombardi's biography because he's one of the greatest football coaches to ever live. You will find within the first 100 pages of that biography, it's like 1,400 pages, by the way. It's about as big as the Bible. It's a football Bible. If you read the first 100 pages, you'll find out he was cheating at Creighton.
What?
Yeah. He was out here
No.
paying offensive guards at Creighton in the 20s.
Oh my God.
Okay. Game been broke.
Can't believe this.
Game been crooked. Y'all ain't just been woke. Y'all just ain't been woke. We're going to wake you up a little bit. But anyways, man, see, Chris Foster out here in the mentions again. He must have missed the episode where I talked about how Tennessee's NIL fund was doing it better than anybody else in the sport, and just shows up to think I'm hating on his team again. Don't miss the show, bud.
We love you, Chris.
We love you, Chris. Shots out. Maybe that'll be our come other fan bases say, listen here, we'll show you love in the chat, while all the Georgia fans have been listening for 5 years will never acknowledge.
That's not true either.
That's not true either, but it's kind of true. All right, let's talk about this JJ McCarthy stuff, because it is very confusing. I'm perplexed. I really am. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, reviewing. Because with McCarthy, man, like, the highlights are elite, right? He's a big, athletic football player that has tremendous arm strength and arm talent. He comes from a Power 5 conference, played super elite competition. He's won at an extensively high rate, only has one loss as a starter. He's won a national title. But this is a guy, through 3 years of playing experience, only averaged 17 attempts per game over 3 years. And people hearing that stat will say, but Brooks, he only started for 2 seasons. And I will say, that is accurate, okay? But that 2 seasons of starting versus the 3-season sample size only increased his attempts per game by 6. In 2 years of starting, in the 28 games as a starter, JJ McCarthy has averaged 23 attempts per game for 191 yards on 70% completion. JJ McCarthy has more football games in college with less than 20 pass attempts, 10 of those, than he does football games in which he has more than 30 pass attempts, 6. Now, why is that stat important? Well, that stat's important because in the NFL, there were only 2 football teams last year, 2 out of 32, that averaged fewer than 30 attempts per game. That was Tennessee, who averaged 29.6, and that was the Baltimore Ravens, who averaged 29.4. So basically what I'm telling you is that NFL teams are right now deciding whether or not they're going to draft JJ McCarthy to do something every single Saturday that he did once out of every 4th start in college. That's a hard thing to do. That's why I'm perplexed, okay? And I don't even know how to project it, because when I go search through the games in which he actually did on a Saturday what he's going to be asked to do every single Sunday, there's a very mixed bag. In fact, all 6 games, guess who their opponents are? Indiana, Illinois, TCU, ECU, Eastern Carolina mixing in there, Purdue, and Iowa. I mean, Iowa, good defense. Not a lot of murderers row in that mix, right? The other best defense in that mix, probably TCU. He took an L. Okay, so there's just not a lot of sample size here. Okay, he had 8 yards per attempt in these football games on 69% completion percentage. Okay, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. Okay. In one of those games, I think the only really good stat lines, the Eastern Carolina game, is 26 for 30 in a game that was well out of hand. Well out of hand. It's just not enough sample size. Guys, he is the definition of a person who has game manager stats with elite traits. He has a Jake Fromm box score and a Josh Allen highlight tape, and I have no idea what to do with it. I have no idea what to do with it, but I know what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't invest heavy draft capital in something I don't know how to project. And this is the exact definition of somebody I have no idea how to project.
That's why I think it's so interesting, because while he does have the years, like actual years, like he has multiple seasons of where he was a starter, his college resume feels like he was a 1-year starter, in my opinion. And so it's interesting to me how you don't really hear about people talking about it like that in the NFL draft scene. Like, people would just kind of hyper focus on what he did do in those big games and what he did do in those small window throws and whatnot. And it's interesting because, like, if Carson Beck had declared this year, all we would have heard about is like, well, we don't have a whole lot of big sample size of him compared to everybody else. But you could even make the argument that his sample size is comparable to JJ McCarthy's.
The chat's doing he's a 6'2" Stetson Bennett. No, he's not. Stetson Bennett averaged almost 30 attempts per game and threw for over 4,000 yards his last year. No, he is not. He's Jake Fromm stat line, but it's worse. Like it's in terms of actual attempts. Like games in which, hey, we got to win it on you, bud. Go figure it out. Like Jake Fromm had a terrible record in those games in which he threw for more than 30 attempts per game. But like, he's not Stetson. Stetson has a long college arc of being the guy.
My guess is this is one of those guys that the NFL looks at and says, okay, the ceiling.
Yeah, give me the trait.
The ceiling is so high. The traits are there. Obviously, I mean, it's concerning the way Michigan treated him, because if he is a first-round talent, the fact that you've kind of
hit him,
built your entire offense away from his abilities is like, why'd you do that? Like,
I have two theories as to why. One, they couldn't protect him. Mm-hmm. Like anytime he was dropping back, they were swarmed. The Penn State game was just as much about we're going to assert our dominance as it was, hey, we can't block that dude over there.
Right.
You know, the first round draft pick they got at the edge, I forget his name, went up, wore 44, I think, for them, went up to the combine, ran 4.49. Okay. Freak. Okay, they got that guy. They had denied Dennis Sutton on the other side, and the linebacker as well, who's an elite pass rusher. Like, they had guys getting after him in the first half. I think he was sacked 2 or 3 times. They just couldn't protect him. Same thing against Iowa. I think he got sacked 5 times against Iowa because they finally had to drop him back and throw the football. He went 22 for 30 in that football game for $147.
Ooh.
Threw it 30 times for 147 yards. So there's either they couldn't protect him, or this is the more likely reason. They were very much so an identity based off running the football. We know well about that. It's been well documented. However, you got this traitsy, really good quarterback who your coach compares to Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen in a smorgasbord, and then you don't use him because you couldn't protect him, or your identity was to run the football, and he was so talented that on 3rd and 11, he could bail you out, which I saw a bunch of on tape. I'm not even going to lie to you. If you watch Michigan last year, in every situation where it was an obvious passing down, he seemed to thrive off of his traits. He would make something work. He would make something happen. He would extend plays. He would use his legs, and he'd do some crazy shit to make a first down. Like, he would do that. But I think why are they protecting him? Why are they hiding him? I think it was more a lot to do with the fact that they couldn't hold up on the offensive line.
So, I mean, I guess it's worth taking a shot on him. If you truly think that, you look at the traits, you look at some of the plays he's made, like, there's no doubt, there's no denying he's made huge plays in his college career.
I would take him after all the other guys.
Just let him go be a Ryan Tannehill.
Not a bad comp. Ryan Tannehill was a high school or a college wide receiver that started like 20 games in college. And eventually figured it out in the league.
His success was with a team that ran the ball a lot.
Correct. With you right there. Speaking of with you, I've been on this Michael Penix draft stock for a fat minute. He's my guy in this year's draft class, and a lot of it is because of some of the stuff that came out in this letter today that he wrote to general managers in the NFL. This comes from the Players Tribune. First of all, the agent has done a slap bang up job throughout this process. Did the staged little photo of them in front of the mirror with all the formations. I call it staged because it was staged. And then they have this, right? He writes this article, and it is tremendously done. I've got some bars in this I want to read. Do you have some?
Yeah, I've got a big snippet that I like.
All right. I like this one right here. I like the one about him from being from Dade City, Florida. Quote, I'm a product of Dade City, Florida. Population 7,600. No Trader Joe's, no Whole Foods, no steakhouses or country clubs, no personal quarterback coaches, no strength coaches, no state-of-the-art training equipment. Nothing about Dade City is luxurious, but that's the way we like it. It's a town full of pride, and a lot of pride comes from football. We swap out summer camps for tackle football on the concrete in the 95-degree heat. You find out quick if you're built for this game or not.
I like that one too.
Well, I got the goosies. I got the goosies just reading it. The part about nothing about Dade City is luxurious, but that's the way we like it. I like that, man. This dude's got a writing career in his future if he wants one.
It was good stuff.
What else do you like?
I like this little paragraph. Even with that success, I experienced a lot there. From lighting up practice to watching practice on crutches, from getting a shout out from LeBron to being booed in my own stadium, from fourth quarter comebacks to entering the transfer portal waiting for somebody to call. Indiana taught me to never take this game for granted. It also taught me that if I fall, I wouldn't bet against me getting up.
You know what I've learned about reading in public? The first stumble comes with a second.
Yeah.
Every time. Don't know what it is about that brain of ours, but that's the way it is.
I like that one, though, because
Ups and downs,
but also I think it kind of shows that, typically when you think of a quarterback entering the transfer portal, it's this guy that enters the portal and everybody's calling. Like in today's market, like quarterbacks like this that you presume go end up at Washington and just light it up. You think that, they just lit it up somewhere, and then Washington ended up being the one that got him, and he just continued to build upon what he did earlier. But get freaking booed out of his own stadium at Indiana. It was kind of a struggle there for a little bit until he got to Washington, and then he really blossomed. So I like that insight.
I like this one. Now seeing Troy Fontenot, Roger Rosengarten, who I wanted to reason, Rosengartner, Jalen Polk, Jack Westover, Roma Dunze, Devin Culp, Jalen McMillian, and Dylan Johnson are all on the cusp of realizing their dream. This is what brings me joy. As a quarterback, my job is to be an elevator. I need to uplift all those around me so that they too can be at their best. So just know, if you put that same belief in me, history shows I'll hold up on my end of the bargain. It's a bar. And then, do you have another one? I have one at the very end that I love. Everyone loves.
The one at the very end?
That's the whole reason to read the damn article.
Mm-hmm. No, that was it for me.
All right. So he says, so this whole article, guys, obviously is about him overcoming these injuries and everybody asking him or talking about his 4 injuries in 4 years or 4 season-ending injuries in 4 years, all this good stuff. Okay. But this whole article was to basically put it out in the forefront that he's not worried about all these doubts about his body. And this is how he closes out this article. So I have no problem taking all the MRIs and x-rays you ask of me. Truth is, it's an EKG that will tell you everything you need to know about me. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to be that guy explaining a rap lyric right now. For those of you who don't know, an EKG is a heart test. It goes through and checks out any problems or any deficiencies with your heart. An EKG is a measure of the heart. And if you take MRIs on Michael Penix, you will find out the heart, not the physical, but the literal heart it took to overcome these injuries. Bars! Absolute bars.
Bro was spitting.
All right.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
When I read that, I was like, you have a heart problem? Like, at first, it took me a second to be like, wait a minute.
So you needed the dumbass rap lyricist to explain it?
Not now. It took me a few seconds. But then I was like, all right, now I see what he's saying.
Somebody said in the chat that Michael Penix is Drake's ghostwriter. Not bad. Hey, we got a whole nother hour coming up right now. Don't leave us.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You like that? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. We do have another hour. It is our local hour. We finna talk that dog. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, reviewing. Quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. I always do the like, subscribe, rate, review because I want you to like it. I want you to subscribe here on YouTube, which about 20% of you watching this right now, statistics say, are not subscribed. Shame on you. You should be. But if you miss any portion of tonight's broadcast, you can find it and will find it. However, wherever you catch your podcast, just search the Film Guy Network. We'll be right there for you for your morning.
Too. Comment too.
Yeah, absolutely. Leave a comment here on the thread, all that good stuff. Show your support however you feel the need to show your support.
Or your disdain. Or your disdain.
We got a loaded local hour for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about the NFL draft buzz. It is NFL draft week. We have a player of the day for you guys. A former Georgia football player is now in his second school as a starter when he couldn't really crack the lineup here. Thought that was worth talking about. Carson Beck being projected by one college football analyst to be the number 1 overall draft pick in next year's NFL draft. And we felt it necessary to not only talk about the story, but kind of talk about what it's going to require for him to ultimately do that. That would be quite a feat. I think he would be the first quarterback since Matt Stafford to do so.
Yep.
Only quarterback ever to do so, right?
Yep.
So that would be an interesting one right there. And of course, Jaden Rashada visiting the University of Georgia very soon. We have some intel for you guys tonight. Quick shout out to our friends at Prize Picks. Let's get started. And that's exactly where we will start. We will start with the Jaden Rashada story. Sources indicated to me this morning and Sources indicated to me this morning confirmed that he will be on campus this week. Don't want to report the exact dates. I believe it to be tomorrow through Wednesday when he will be on campus. And I want everybody to kind of remember this. This is kind of his first time really seeing and feeling out the program and the facilities and the campus. This wasn't a guy that Georgia was in on coming out of high school. This is a guy that in the second round of recruitment, it seems like Georgia is going to be highly active with and around here. So he obviously won't be able to see what practice is, won't be able to feel what practice is because not in that time frame of the schedule, right? He's not going to be able to feel that smoke that a lot of people feel when they first go to a Georgia practice, because if you ain't never been, it will be a culture shock for you when you first get there. Like, wow, they really coach hard here. Yeah, they do. So you should be very, very aware of that. But I would imagine he gets the feel for that, the seriousness and the level of professionalism around the program, just walking around and talking to the football facility, or to the football staff, rather. But I think most importantly, he will see, hear, and feel for the first time what Mike Bobo's offense is going to be like, right? What the system's going to feel like, and what the mission ultimately is, what the plan ultimately is for Rashada if he were to indeed end up at the University of Georgia. So that's all good news and good things about what is coming for this visit and kind of the lay of the land of what needs to happen, or what will rather happen during this visit. But I think we did a decent enough job addressing this Thursday when the news kind of broke on us mid-show. I definitely hammered home the point to patreon.com/Brooks Austin. We carried it over into Discord conversation, but I kind of want to hammer it home here because I've kind of seen a narrative that is kind of false on social media, and I want to address it right now. Okay. I don't hear, and I never do, I didn't hear any concern about the linebacker room when Justin Williams, Chris Cole, and Christopher Jones were added to it this offseason. I didn't hear anybody running to Twitter going, wonder what Smile Mondon thinks of this. What about Raylan Wilson? I didn't hear nothing about that. In fact, when Jamon Dumas-Johnson, when Pop hit the portal this fall, everybody was like, was it December? Mm-hmm. The first window. When he hit the portal during the first window, everybody was kind of like, oh, well, I mean, that makes sense. C.J. Allen's the better football player. I didn't hear nobody running to Twitter going, oh, no, what did we do? Why did we bring in all these good football players if we were maybe going to lose somebody who might not be as good? Y'all do this at every other position. I didn't hear a word, not a word, about 6, not 3, not 2, not 4, 6. That's 7. 6 offensive linemen being added to the room this spring and this fall. 6 bodies being added to arguably the deepest offensive line room in the sport. Didn't hear a word. Y'all didn't come running to Twitter talking about Kelton Smith. Y'all didn't run to Twitter talking about Jamal Merriweather. Oh, what happens there? Y'all don't do this. Y'all don't do this at any other position. But for some reason, I don't know why would you do this at the quarterback room? Why would you look at the quarterback room any other different than you do at any other position in the sport? Y'all didn't say a word about Ellis Robinson coming to the University of Georgia last year. Oh, what happens if he beats out Julian Humphrey? Y'all didn't say a word. Y'all just said, ooh, number 1 player overall. Come on. So why do y'all do this with the quarterback room, right? Especially when your coach has been very honest about the plan. The plan has been 4 quarterbacks. However, he did not say, we just want a 4th body. He didn't come out and say that, did he? So when they actually get a good 4th body, some people want to run to Twitter and go, oh, well, what happens? What happens if this guy's good? Well, it'll make the room better. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Because I understand when quarterbacks get involved, you worry about another quarterback leaving. That's what you do. You don't treat, again, you didn't treat Pop like this. You didn't treat Latavius Bernee like this. But you're going to treat whatever quarterback, if a quarterback leaves, you're going to treat that quarterback like this, okay? Because you fear whatever it could be instead of just saying what it is. We root on a football team. You root on a football team. Shouldn't say we. You root on a football team that is very adamant about making the roster as great as humanly possible. So when a great player becomes available at any position, You're going to take a look at them. It does not mean they think less of anybody else in the room. That's the first thought, right? Oh, well, they must not think Gunner's very good. Well, no. In fact, Gunner just had the best spring, in like 3 years we've heard from any quarterback? Mm-hmm. He had a tremendous spring. They confirmed and found out everything they needed to know and wanted to know about Gunner this spring. And we're still a Scully short. So what y'all want him to do? Y'all want him to go sign or go after the backup quarterback from Indiana? Y'all want him to go find out whether or not the fourth stringer at another Power 5 school wants to get in? What? No. There is a great player available. Georgia's going to attack the great player. And by the way, the other great players in the room, they all knew this was coming. They all knew a fourth body was coming. And they all knew the fourth body was going to be really, really talented and really, really good. So there you go. That's my only thing right there. Like, why do we automatically be like, this must mean, like when somebody transferred or somebody popped in the other day and started talking about Jared Curtis. What's this mean for Jared? What are you talking about? Ryan Montgomery commits. What's this mean for Jared Curtis? Bro, Jared Curtis got 2 more years of high school football. What are you talking about? What are we doing? Y'all do this every time at the quarterback position. I don't get it. Your quarterback room should be just as great, better than any other room in your building.
Yeah, I mean, it's because of the Justin Fields thing.
Is that what it is?
There's a percentage of every Georgia fan in their mind was always asking, what would happen if Justin Fields didn't leave Georgia? And the idea that, well, Jake Fromm starting pushed him away, so that might happen with this. Stetson Bennett might be doing that to JT Daniels. Carson Beck might be doing that to Brock Vandagriff. Things like that. That's always going to play in the back of Georgia fans' mind, even though time and time again, Kirby Smart has proved that you don't need to worry about that. He knows what he's doing at that position. So I feel like that's the reason why people go, freak out about it.
I think Georgia fans also kind of forget that in 2019, your quarterback room consisted of Jake Fromm and Stetson Bennett. Once Jake Fromm was injured against LSU, you were playing a walk-on Stetson Bennett against the eventual national title contenders. Aaron Murray's years at Georgia, who'd you have backing him up, Christian? Who was there right behind him?
Hudson Mason.
Yeah, I mean, when Murray got hurt, tore his ACL against Kentucky, if Georgia was on the verge of contending for a national title that year, which they weren't, you would have been playing Hudson Mason on your mission to winning a national title. Even the year before that, Matthew Stafford, you had Joe Cox behind him. That was your quarterback room.
He did lead a 21-point comeback against Georgia Tech, though.
I was telling you guys before the show, as a college football observer, Georgia hasn't had a quality number 2 prior to this era of Kirby Smart since DJ Shockley in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's been a severe drop-off from 1 to 2 and way, way worse from 2 to 3. You know, in previous regimes than ever, like Kirby would ever allow it.
Oh yeah,
at this point. So it just doesn't behoove you to take worse players. You know, ever at all. It always makes your roster better to take the best player available, and competition be damned. You know what I mean? By the way, they also do a very good job at Georgia of making sure these individuals are bred for competition. Like they seek it, they want it. Right? One of the biggest tests for Puglisi when he was a commit was when they started recruiting Dylan Raiola. Everybody wanted to know, hey, what's this mean for you? You know, Dylan Raiola just committed. What's this mean for you? Jack shit. Like, I'm coming to Georgia. What do you mean? Like, I'm going to Georgia to compete. What have you heard Ryan Montgomery talk about? I'm going to Georgia to compete. I want to play with and against the best. We've heard Carson Beck talk about, like, I knew the guy in front of me was an NFL guy. If I can't beat that guy, then I must not be an NFL guy. I'm not going to suddenly become an NFL guy somewhere else. You know what I mean? Through magic potions and pills. Okay. It takes time and it takes development and it takes competition. You got to be willing to seek that out. So again, I find this refreshing, not something to be troublesome about, not something to worry about. And again, you're worrying about something that may never happen because you're worried about it. Like, that's just goofy. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts there. Mm-hmm. All right. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. We got a lot of people loading up in here. I think we just crossed over 300. So shout out to you guys. Flood up that chat. Hit that emoji. Start flying stuff off. Trick the algorithm. Get more people in here. NFL drafts this week. Starts Thursday. A lot of people asking if we're going to do a live stream, super show, all that good stuff. I don't know. I haven't talked to the fellows about it. It's not something that I like to do because it's very unscripted.
Yeah.
And we're not unscripted. It may seem like that. It may feel like that. We may look like we're riffing. We put a lot of work into making sure this show transitions smoothly, making sure we nail 2 hours, making sure we hit all the topics that need to be hit on, right? I can sit here and do a 3-hour stream tomorrow, or Thursday. I don't think you're going to watch it. I think you're going to be over at Pat McAfee, ESPN, NFL Network, whatever. Okay. But B, it's not the content we do. If I could get up on the board and show tape every single time, we would do that. You know, we'd watch some highlights or whatever. We would do that, but we would get shut down immediately. So I don't know what we're going to do on Thursday. We're going to figure something out. Maybe come in here Wednesday, pre-record a film study. I don't know. We'll do something for the audience so you don't go dry on Thursday. But it is NFL draft week, and there's some NFL draft buzz going around right now. So here's what we're going to do. I think there are 10 draft eligible football players, or players that will or on the verge of being drafted. Let's call it 11, because I don't want to offend Zion Lowe, because he will eat me, and he's much, much larger than I am. A lot more physical as well. So let's make it 11. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to place an over-under on the player, kind of tell you why I think that is, and then we will go to the boys right here, and they will say over, under, or, right on the nail. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start with Brock Bowers. Okay, now I set the line for Brock Bowers 11th overall, and here's why. The Jets are sitting right there at 10. Yep. There's some theories, some possibilities that the Chargers at 5 might be a landing spot, right? But after 10, it's kind of a drop-off for teams that might need a tight end. You look at maybe like the Saints, who I think are at like 15 or 16. But it seems like Brock's either going to get taken by the Jets, or he may have a potential to fall. So, boys, what say y'all?
Under meaning
before 11?
Yeah, before. No, yeah. Under being before 11.
Give me the under.
I'm going to go with the under on that one, because I think that I think specifically for the New York Jets as well. Like, if you're sitting there at 10th overall and you have Brock Bowers on the board, I think they're going to have a really hard time passing up on Brock Bowers and being okay knowing that someone behind them at probably maybe even like 15th for the Indianapolis Colts, that's another team that's been linked to him. Yeah. Knowing that like that team could get Brock Bowers at 15th and we were 10th overall, we could really use a Brock Bowers. I have a hard time believing that they would be okay passing that.
Yeah, the way the NFL draft has always played out to me is you've got 1 through 6 where it's like, we know what we need. We're going to take a quarterback. We're going to take a defensive lineman. We're going to take yada, yada, yada. And then you've got that 7 through 10 ways where it's kind of fringe, where it's like we have a need, but there's also extremely talented players that are available. Yeah. Like Brock Bowers, I think we can all agree is one of the top 3 most talented prospects. Now, obviously, because team needs and the positional value, he's not going to be a top 5 pick. But if you're the number 7, number 8, number 9 team and Brock Bowers is still sitting there, you're going to take Brock Bowers. I would be shocked if he slips out of the top 12.
By the way, there was a little skirmish. There was a guy that appeared to be seeking some engagement about Brock Bowers' 40 time. Oh, we don't have verified athletic metrics. How are we ever going to know that this dude's an elite athlete? First of all, check the tape. Second of all, GPS metrics up and down. This kid's been strapped with a catapult bra since he was 18 years old. Just ask. Find out. You might learn something. The third, and most importantly, for an NFL coverage media personality, Josh Norris, whatever, does NFL fantasy coverage, but he is a very well-versed football guy. Like, did shows with former quarterback Josh McCown. Did shows with McCown where they were like breaking down tape and stuff. This is a super smart football guy. Okay, goes on Twitter, we don't know if this guy's a guaranteed athlete. We don't have verified data on this guy. Yeah, you do, Josh. You don't. The NFL does. Okay, he ran a 40. It's been verified. He ran 4.53. You just had to have some sourcing to ask about it. That's it. Okay, so he did. He ran 4.53. He's plenty fast enough. On to number 2. Y'all all went under. I'm good with it. Amarius Mims. Okay, Amarius Mims, 6'8", 330 pounds, 10% body fat, ran 5.01 at the 40 or at the NFL Combine, 35-inch arms, 85-inch wingspan. Insane. God's gift to molding a tackle. Only has 8 career starts. I'm setting the bar 18th overall. That would make him about the 5th, 6th, 7th tackle in this draft.
This one's tougher for me because, like you said, that sample size is so small. And there is kind of this lingering, like, how healthy does he stay type of thing. He is the prototypical mold for the perfect tackle. All the athletic traits are there. We've seen through those 8 games that he is more than ready to be an NFL starter, but I think that those negatives might catch a snag on him. I'm going to go over on this just because
early 20s maybe.
Yeah. Because I mean, like you go back to the original mock drafts, like he was like the last pick of the first round.
Yeah.
And he slowly climbed his way up, but I think that's going to kind of come back during draft day. So
these next 2 guys we're going to talk about are going to get hurt by the fact that it's the deepest class maybe in 20 years at their position. It's super deep at offensive tackle.
I'm tempted to go dead on right here.
Cincy at
just 18. To say, I think Cincy might take him because there's been a whole lot of buzz about Cincinnati liking Amarius Mims. They had him on a visit.
The offensive line coach talked about him like I talk about football players. He was like, "Oh my God, he's beautiful. He's gorgeous. I've never seen it. Or have you seen his waist? You know, like that kind of stuff."
So just based off of those types of things, and obviously the player that he is, I think I'm just going to say dead on Amarius Mims, 18th overall to the Cincinnati Bengals.
If the NFL were a only ceiling scouting league, he would be OT1. No
sure.
doubt.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
If it were strictly ceiling, this guy would be the first tackle off the board. All right. The third guy we're going to talk about tonight, Ladd McConkey. Now, I played with this. I think both of y'all are going to take the over here. 32nd overall. Basically, what I'm asking you, is Ladd McConkey going to be a first-round draft pick?
I love the idea of him sneaking in and Kansas City taking him at 32. I mean, it makes sense that he's the guy that they need. You're going to have to replace certain players at that position. You've been looking for a Tyreek Hill type guy. The wide receiver core for Kansas City was abysmal this year. I'm going to say dead on. I think Kansas City takes Ladd 32 overall. I think Ladd's done enough just putting athletic abilities on tape. He's also been a guy that I've noticed. There's always these 2 or 3 players every draft cycle that for some reason just get hype. I feel like I've seen more Ladd McConkey mixtapes in the last month from random college football sites than I have anywhere else. So I'm gonna go. People buy into the hype. He goes.
You don't think people are playing the algorithm there?
I'm sure they are, but
maybe just that.
You know, it's interesting though because the Buffalo Bills have become a player in this as well.
26?
Yeah, they're at 28th. So they're right there before Kansas City. So I think they're definitely a player in this as well. Obviously, they don't have any wide receivers right now. They would love to take one in the first round. But the reason why I'm going to say over is because this is such a deep wide receiver class. And I think that there's a lot of other positions that are going to be drafted. Like a lot of offensive tackles are going to be drafted in the first round. There's going to be quite a few quarterbacks taken.
Can almost guarantee 4 corners every year.
Yeah, defensive backs are going to be taken. So for those reasons, I think that he's going to fall to the second round. But I've said this pretty consistently. Like he's going to be one of the first 5 picks in the second round, in my opinion. Like someone is going to snatch him up quickly.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at this, and it's not just him, it's the Ricky Pearsall kid from Florida. Mm-hmm. I feel this way about some defensive players that you just know, like you look at and you say, hey, that guy's going to be a great NFL pro or a really good pro, right? He's going to play 10, 12 years. He's going to be really, really solid. We know we're going to hit on this. We might hit a ground rule double. I keep using that. We might hit a ground rule double. We might not hit it 3 rows up into the damn upper deck, but we're not going to strike out. And you know who has a really, really good feel for or a need for we're not going to strike out or we just need one more good player? NFL playoff teams.
Yeah.
You know, teams like the Bills, teams like the Lions, teams like the Ravens, teams like the 49ers, teams like the Chiefs. They could use one more good player. Hey, we were a 3rd and 5 away from getting to the AFC Championship, or we were a 3rd and 5 away from getting to the Super Bowl. Well, we need one good player. Let's make sure we take a ground rule double. Let's make sure we take a hit. That's the only reason one of the main reasons I should say, why I could see Ladd being a first round pick, because a team like Cincinnati or Kansas City might look at, this is going to sound crazy, but they might look at him in a player like Xavier Worthy and feel like he's a safer bet. I know we can do something with that. I don't know that the guy who ran 4.21 is going to be a great pro, because we don't have a history that says just because you're fast, you're going to be a great pro. In fact, it's the opposite. If you run sub 4.3, there's like not a good player in that list. Go look at it. There's not a great player in the history of the NFL that ran sub 4.3 except for Chris Johnson, and he tapped out after 5 good years. So like, there's not a long list of these dudes. And I would say that if I were an NFL team that was 14-2 last year, lost a 1-score game in the playoffs, I'd be looking for who can start for us right now and impact our roster.
For sure.
Everybody going over, though?
I'm going over.
I went dead on.
All right. Let's go on to our 4th guy who I think is going to get drafted next. Now, we're going to put, though, this is the last number that we're going to put on a guy, and then we're going rounds after this. Kamari Lassiter, 50th overall. Now, listen to me, guys. He's the 9th ranked corner, 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever. Might find him as high as 7th on some boards, but he's a bottom 10 eval at the corner position in a relatively deep corner class. So what do you think?
And that's why I said I think this is going to be the best defensive backs class we've probably seen in a very, very long time. Because the fact that Kamari Lassiter is that low on the rankings tells you everything you need to know about the rest of the class. Kamari's also been a guy that anytime you look at these mock drafts, anytime you look at his projection, he's really in that like 40 to 45 range. Like I've seen some things about maybe the Falcons want to pick him up to pair him up with AJ Terrell, which me as a Falcons fan would personally love that. But it's just tough too, because like I said, like same reason why Ladd McConkey would go quick in the second round. There's going to be a lot of people like that ahead of Kamari that are going to go in that second round, and they're going to get taken up pretty quickly. And so that's why I'm going to say I think he's going to go over. But also, it is the Philadelphia Eagles at 50th overall, and we know that there's a history there as well. But also,
I got another team I'm penciling right now. But go ahead.
This might be the toughest one you've given us so far, because I feel like there are certain teams that will put on the tape and go, holy shit, like this is exactly what we need. There are also certain teams that look at his measurables, look at his projected speed, his GPS numbers, and go like, and there might be other guys that are better than him. So I think it's going to depend on who is looking at what with him. I personally think that he plays like a top 35 corner in the league. His measurables aren't that though. So I'll go under 55 just because I think that there is some team out there that's going to be sitting at the late 40 positions in values tape, but it's going to be close.
All right, I got one for you right here. You ready? The Commanders have picked 36 and 40. Okay, and here's why. Okay, people around this area are well acquainted with Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn, historically, like some tough football playing SOBs at corner, right? Comes from Seattle. Now, granted, runs a cover 3 scheme traditionally, like some big, tall, and long. Kamari is not that. However, Kamari a dog, and there's something to be said about that. Just having that killer's mentality that defensive coordinators will resonate with when talking to him. So I think Washington might be a good little look right there. If we're chasing the under here, if you're really trying to pursue a top 50 evaluation, that's where I would find it. I think you guys are right. Somewhere around 52, 53, all the way up to like 60. I think he's a second round eval no matter what.
Yeah.
So there's that. All right, on to our next guy, Javon Bullard. I put second round. Now, Bull's a guy who did absolutely everything except for hang upside down for too long so he can get an extra inch or two in his height measurement, but did absolutely everything in the pre-draft process to enhance his draft stock.
See, this is where I think the Commanders come into play with someone like Bullard. And I've seen some people talk about them taking Bullard, but I think he's definitely second round. I mean, I think he's going to be a second round pick. I think he is what anybody is looking for in that type of player on the defense.
Dan Quinn, if you think you liked Keanu Neal, wait till you get you some Bull, baby.
And he won't get a targeting call for you, so he'll be all right. So, yeah, I think he's without a doubt second round pick. No easy question.
Yeah, my player comp for Javon Bullard has always been DeMonte Casey. Kind of undersized safety, not afraid to lay the wood on you, can play that traditional star position, even though the cover 3 system doesn't really have one of those. But I think that Javon Bullard is another guy that's going to he already has kind of played and combined his way into a second round pick. I think that it's a lock at that point.
The other thing that's really helping Javon here in this class, and we can probably extend this to Tyke when we talk about him in just a second, but really dry safety class. Like as deep as we talk about the wide receiver class, as deep as we talk about the offensive tackles, the safety class is very, very dry. In fact, I saw Mel Kiper today say that Bull is probably the number 1 safety in the class. So that makes him automatically a second-round draft pick in terms of the class isn't good enough to warrant a first-round draft pick. He doesn't warrant the physical metrics to be a first-round draft pick, but he's a great caliber player, a high-caliber player. We need to get him.
Yeah, you need to hit on your second-round picks, and you take Javon Bullard, you think you're going to hit on that.
Yeah, he's going to survive his rookie contract draft pick no matter what right there, it feels like. All right, so we all feel solid about that second round eval for Bull. All right, on to Tyke Smith. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting, right? Where does nickel corner value come into this draft? Now, Noah Igbinoghene a couple years ago, 20th overall, I think 28th overall to the Dolphins. Now, I don't think it's worked out for the Dolphins there with the former nickel corner out of Auburn, but We'll see. I got a 3rd round eval right now on Tyke. I think it's low because of what he ran in the 40. I think because of what he did in the pre-draft process, the 3rd round eval is a little bit too low.
Talking about how barren this safety class is, it's really resulted in not only Bullard getting a lot of love, but also Tyke has gotten a lot of love in this as well. I know the Senior Bowl really helped him in that thing, and also his final season at Georgia spoke for itself. So I think he's definitely a safe, easy go at round 3, but it's also interesting because someone like Tyke, it has to be like certain specifications for this team to take him, and you have to have, I feel like, the right team to take him. It's not just like all 32 teams could just line up and say, I'll take Tyke Smith right now. But I think it is safe to say that someone would take him in round 3.
Tyke showed you during his time at Georgia that he knows the safety position very well. He's a very smart player. I think what teams are going to get snagged up on is the multiple knee injuries, the lower body injuries, and the question around his game speed, which on tape, there's things where you see that certain teams think that they can attack him vertically. So I think that's going to be kind of a snag and kind of make certain teams go like, hey, what's going on here? So
Auburn tried to get him with a tight end this year.
Yeah. The disrespect.
They took a tight end vertical on him.
Yeah.
So, you're right. And it's not just like it's a foot injury and a knee injury. You know what I mean? It's not like he cracked his shin.
Yeah.
Right.
He tore a ligament in his foot and tore a ligament in his knee.
Yeah.
Or I think he broke his foot.
Broke his foot.
He had the same injury that
it sounds like Tyrion Ingram Dawkins has had and Darnell.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think it was the same injury as Darnell.
We're not sponsored by Nike, but Nike, might want to check out your cleats, man. A lot of broken feet. Did you know of a single teammate that broke a foot in football?
I broke a couple toes in high school.
Toes, not like foot.
Yeah,
your foot didn't break.
Not feet, no.
That's crazy to me that people out here popping feet. What? You know what I mean? Like non-contact, broke foot. What?
Yeah,
check the cleats, baby. Check the cleats. Don't check the turf. Check the cleats. That's weird. But anyways, I'm with you guys. I think the maybe like first second pick of the 3rd round. You know?
Yeah.
What is that, like 65?
65th, 66th.
Yeah.
That'd be the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona
compensation
Cardinals.
Picks nowadays too.
I think so, yeah.
So good little slot for him. He did a great job in the draft process.
Yeah, he did.
And I think we also finally saw, and I wrote this in our article today, I think we finally saw what healthy Tyke Smith looks like. I remember watching the West Virginia tape and thinking he was the best open field tackler I'd evaluated in college football in a minute. Like, he did not miss open field tackles. And then the first game I really remember him getting heavy action was 2022 Missouri. And he missed a couple tackles. And I'm like, that's not
right.
That's not him. And then we saw him this year, led the team in tackles for loss, and interceptions.
Yeah.
That's not a bad run right there, brother. That's not a bad run at all. Shout out Tyke Smith. All right, number 7 on the board for me, Cedric Van Pran Granger. I put down a 3rd round evaluation. This could go anywhere. 3rd to 5th, honestly, is what I'm kind of thinking right here. Just because we talked a little bit about it with the tight end position, but positional value in the NFL is just not high enough at the center position.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm going to say over, because I think Cedric Van Pran is a player that a lot of teams like and that a lot of teams are going to want to take him, but I also feel like he could be one of those players where teams are going to continue to hold off as long as they feel like they can to draft Cedric Van Pran, because they know what they're going to get in him. They know he's going to be a phenomenal football player, but they would, if they can get him in the 5th round or the 4th round, then they would rather do that, maybe look elsewhere to snag him. And so I think that he might kind of trickle down the board a little bit, not as a reflection of his abilities or how he played or anything like that, but just because, like you said, the center position is not a high priority in the NFL draft. And so I think teams might hold out on it just a little bit and see as long as they can wait to take him.
So right now, the NFL mock draft database has him ranked 103rd overall, which places him in the 4th round.
Yeah. Sounds about right. I think that, it's fair to say that center's probably the lowest demand of the offensive line positions.
Correct.
So you combine that with the fact that his arm length is probably going to trip some teams up. I think it's not going to cause him to fall tremendously, because you know what he is. He's a fantastic player. He's going to be
31 and 3/8 inch arm length.
Yeah, he's going to be the opposite of whatever a locker room cancer is. Like, he's going to step in and be a leader by year 2. So that's the type of player getting in Cedric Van Pran. I don't know if that's going to be enough to propel him into like a 3rd or 4th round or 3rd round.
I see him anywhere from like OC 2 to OC like 4. They like the kid out of Oregon. They like the kid out of West Virginia. They like my guy out of Wisconsin. And then somewhere in between my guy from Wisconsin and Cedric is kind of where they're at in OC3, which historically would put you somewhere mid-third round. The Powers Ferry Johnson kid's got a chance to be a first-round draft pick at center. But you are right. Positional value, I find that I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to and maybe not everyone thinks about it this way, but the NFL certainly does. And Georgia, the school that I talk most to, definitely views this position this way. I will just teach anybody how to do it.
Yeah.
Just get me 5 great tackles. We'll figure out how to do the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you hear a lot of like, hey, this guard is converted to center.
Yeah, we're going to kick him inside.
Yeah, he's taking reps.
We're going to kick him inside. It's like, I don't know if it's just that easy to pick up on. Now, I've always made jokes like, if you can walk and chew gum, I can teach you how to snap a football. That's not exactly true. You know, like Tate Ratledge is in his 6th year of college football. Fifth year of college football.
4th.
No, he redshirted after he
did he?
After he popped his foot against Clemson.
I thought he was a true freshman starting against Clemson.
It was a redshirt freshman. Anyways, so Tate's talked to the media this year about just like I don't like making the calls. Like it's easy to call the calls at guard, but now I got to call the calls for everybody. I don't know how that feels. Like, oh, and by the way, snapping's kind of difficult. I just now figured that out too. Like, not exactly just kick him inside. It's not always that easy. So if you have a positional need for this, that's the other thing. It's not a positional want. It's not even positional value. But to draft a center, you almost have to have nobody on your depth chart that can do it. That's the way it feels like sometimes, right? Where these NFL teams are like, well, we have so many other needs elsewhere. We have a center and a guard that can maybe highlight as one or streamline as one if we need him to do so. So I could see Ced going in that 4th round, but being, on the field faster than maybe like Kamari or maybe like Javon, right? This guy could be a 4th round draft pick and be a day 1 starter depending on that team's need that ultimately drafts him. All right, last couple of guys. Rojak, what do you got? I got 5th round. What say you guys on a 5th round eval on Rojak? Another guy that had a great process here.
Yeah. I think Rojak's going to be a steal for someone. I think you're going to get a 10-year player when you draft Rojak.
This might be one of those Robert Beal situations where I'm at a workout somewhere on Saturday or Friday night and y'all text me and say, hey, Robert Beal just got drafted. And I'm like, what? Robert Beal's like a 6th round pick. It's like pick 90. And you're like, yeah, but the Niners just took him. It could be one of those where it's like Rojak just got picked.
And that's why I have a hard time placing him in the draft, because he is just a hard player to place. I mean, there's a whole lot of value in having a player like Rojak. He does a lot of things well. He does a lot of things right. He may not have a 1% thing at some of these abilities or a lot of these abilities, but I mean, he's consistent, and that's what you need to be in the NFL.
I'll tell you what. I saw him at not to cut you off. I keep doing that tonight. Good. My bad. I saw him at G-Day, pulled him off to the side, told him this. I was like, bro, you have made a lot of money in this process. He's confident. I'm not going to tell you what he said, but he is confident. He thinks he's one of the better wide receivers available in this draft. And I don't know why you wouldn't think so. He's got pedigree, right? St. Thomas Aquinas, a really, really good high school football program. He was great. Comes to Georgia, and as was it true freshman when he snapped his ankle?
Yeah, true freshman.
True freshman. Looks like he's coming onto the scene. Looks like he's going to have one. Pops his ankle. We'll see you in 16 months, and then just continues to be a really solid option for Georgia for 4 years.
And here, I mean, the reason why he's going to last a long time in the NFL, why I think he is going to, is because if you are a wide receiver 3 or 4 in the NFL, the most important thing you need to do is catch the ball when it's thrown your way, and you need to answer the call when they tap on your number. He did that every single time at Georgia. He has great hands, and every time you throw him the ball, he's going to catch it for you. And so I think he's going to last a long time. I think he's probably like 5th round, in my opinion, though.
That's exactly what I got him.
Yeah, I would put him in the 5th round. I would not be shocked if we're in the middle of the 4th round and someone goes Marcus Trezemy-Jackson. It wouldn't shock me at all.
He would be that player.
Yeah.
Robert Beal this year.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure.
Which Robert was a take on traits. Robert went to the NFL Combine, ran 4.51, I think.
Well, yeah, and I remember the San Francisco 49ers GM talking about it after the draft process, and they were just like, dude, we're like, Kirby Smart, that's who they talked about, and they were like, we had to take him.
Yeah. All right, so Rojak there in the 5th round. Now, I got both backs. We'll talk about them together. Kendall and Dejan, over under 6th round. It's tough. It's let's say it this way. It's a very, historically thin running back class.
Yeah,
historically thin.
So that might help them.
Very well could.
Might, like, if a team really feels like they need to get a surefire, like SEC style running back or whatever you want to call it, and someone like Kendall Milton, I think it would be Kendall first off the board.
You think so?
I think so. That's how I feel about it. I would say probably over, though. I feel like they're probably 7th round projections.
I'd put him at 7th round too, just because Kendall has a history of injuries, and Dion might not be the explosive running back that people think you have to be in today's NFL. But I also could very well see teams in the 5th round going, hey, our running back room's looking a little thin. Why not go to a proven commodity like a Georgia, somewhere where they have consistent, they're RBU to a lot of people. Why not go here and see if we can get a home run?
What'd you just find?
I was trying to remind myself of when Kenny McIntosh got drafted 7th round. I couldn't remember if he was actually drafted or if he went undrafted. Kenny McIntosh going in the 7th round, being able to do everything that he was able to do. He was the definition of a Swiss Army knife, dual threat guy out of the backfield, and he got picked up in the 7th round.
So here would be my thought process here, particularly for a situation like Kenny. Now, I don't know how. I think he got hurt immediately in Seattle. Had a good spring or good preseason game 1, and then might have gotten hurt. Had a good camp, got hurt, whatever. Here would be my theory. If I were Kendall's agent, if I was Dion agent, here's how I would be talking to them right now. Hey, we want to be drafted for the sake of saying that we got drafted. That's awesome. But let me just run something by you here, right? We play the running back position, right? It would really, really be beneficial to us to be able to select our home, because we can look at the room and we can say, oh, that guy's coming off an off-season injury. They only have 3, running backs on the roster there. That guy's on the practice squad, may not be back. That guy just got into some trouble in the offseason. That guy's going to be a free agent in 6 months. They don't know if they want to pay him. I get to select my future home. Whereas if I'm like a 6th, 7th round draft pick, they're going to select me. They're going to take me because they either need me or I'm best player available. And that's all great. But when I get there, I don't know what the situation is going to be like. So I have an opportunity to get cut, or I have an opportunity to not make this team. No different than if I'm an undrafted free agent. However, if I'm an undrafted free agent, I have the ability to pick my landing spot, unlike any other opportunity as a football player ever until you reach free agency. So I would just look at it that way. It's like, hey, even if we aren't drafted, we have the opportunity to handpick where we're going to go and give ourselves the best opportunity to make a roster.
And is the monetary value of being a 7th round pick in UDFA that much different?
In fact, you get paid more. Honestly, there are much more opportunity to make more money as an undrafted free agent, because now we can have a bidding war. It's not slotted salaries. Okay, so I'm an undrafted free agent. Rodrigo Blankenship found this out. This is how I know this. Rodrigo Blankenship, had he been a 7th round draft pick, his salary would have been slotted. However, as an undrafted free agent, he was then able to pit the Indianapolis Colts, the Tampa Bay Bucks, whoever was still in need of a place kicker. He was able to say, okay, well, I like this, and these guys are offering me this. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give you this. His signing bonus coming out of college was actually much higher than that of most 7th round draft picks.
Interesting.
Because it's free barter.
That's also a tremendous point that you just made.
Yeah. So there you go. Same thing for Zion. I think Zion Logue probably goes undrafted.
Probably so.
But that's okay. I was going to say Malik. I think maybe a Malik Herring path for Zion, but Malik was drafted.
Yeah.
So hopefully he finds a home. All right, we have a player of the day. Y'all ready?
Who is it?
Ooh,
okay, so I've been doing this one lately. I've been saying, like, hey, who's Georgia? Who is a football player that I need to introduce my audience to? Who is a prospect in the 2025 class that if we don't watch that tape, we have failed as the Film Guy Network? I got 3 responses today. One was Todd Robinson out of Valdosta. We've already watched. One was CJ Wiley out of Milton and Alpharetta. We've already watched. And one is the guy we're going to watch today, our guy, Dallas Golden. All right. So, our boy Dallas is a defensive back. I haven't decided whether or not he's a corner, a safety, or a nickel. And at this point in your career, if I have not decided, 9 times out of 10, I'm just going to make you a nickel, because that's what I have a tendency to do. It's no different than I watch a guy who plays offense and defense, and my first inclination is like, He's a receiver. Got to. Needs you to play receiver. I'm just prone to do that. So if you're positionless as a defensive back in high school, you're a star when you get to Georgia. That's the way I look at it. It's the way I looked at Javon Bullard. It's also the way I looked at Kamari Lassiter, which didn't happen. He ended up sticking at corner. Might have to bump into nickel and pro ball. This is the exact same way I looked at a guy like Major Burns, even though Major Burns ended up at safety. There's been a couple of these guys. So when we watch the tape, we're like, hey, don't know what you are. Dallas fits this mold right here. Okay, right here he's playing safety, and he's listed as a safety in most recruiting services that you will look for. Obviously can high point the football and cover some ground. This is Berkeley High School. I don't think I've covered a kid out of Berkeley before. Good to see some wide receiver reps right here. Get loose now. Oh, wow. Change of directions, elite.
Very nice.
Got some elite skills to him. My first text was, he's about 6 foot 185. Is that what he listed at?
I think so.
On 24/7. Will you check that for me?
Yep.
About 6 foot 185. That's him playing receiver. Good God, that was a loaded. Yeah, bro. We saw the same thing, didn't we?
Yeah.
Boy, it was crunk out there at Berkeley High School football, dog. Y'all was out there getting down.
Did they just not sit in the stands?
I don't know. That must have been for the win, though.
Might have been an OT game or something.
Yeah, it must have been.
6 foot 176.
6 foot 176. Okay, this is him at quarterback.
Take like a half.
Oh, you guys see it? You guys take a half step back?
Yeah.
My bad. It's probably the football in my hand, too. Hey, do you guys see what I see? I'm going to stop. Oh, here it is. Y'all see what I see?
Bow-legged.
I see a shit ton of linemen on it.
I see bow-legged. That's what I see.
I was looking
My
at the
guy's
heavy
there.
package.
My guy's there. He's with me. He's locked. I see a bow-legged athlete.
Oh, they're running Wildcat. That's why. Goodbye. Holy hell. That's a hole.
Yeah, buddy. That's a fleet. Does he get hawked? No, he doesn't. Let's see here. Okay, now he's playing receiver again. No, this is him playing true corner, actually. Yeah, that's him deflecting that ball. So we've seen him play quarterback, well, really running back. We've seen him play corner. We've seen him play safety. We've seen him play wide receiver. Now we're going to see him on a pick. I guarantee he cribs this. You see how he set him up right, knowing he was going left? Does he crib? Nah, boo. I thought he was finna crib. Huh. Jet sweep?
Blocking.
Nah, he's running out of
release.
pass. Be a hands catcher. He is.
Good little release.
That sounded like a phone call.
That was me.
That was you?
That was my phone.
Oh, my bad.
You good?
Either way, I get nervous when it's not near me.
Screenager. Ooh.
What just happened?
See, you missed it, man. You on
He just
your
juked
phone.
somebody?
You gotta live in the moment.
He juked somebody?
Poor Willie.
He put somebody down on the ground.
know.
Oh, damn, 11. 11.
Oh, he's sitting on his No, dude.
Boo.
Bruh, that's
On offer, kid. I don't care if you got power 5-0s. You look like a good football player, but dear God Almighty.
guy hit him with the Stephon Diggs after that too, bro.
Jesus. You gotta trade that kid.
Trade him.
Oh, stiff.
Okay. Can you? They took good angles on him.
Yeah. Hey, will you check the 24/7 timelines when he was on Georgia's? If he has been.
He didn't look. Rewind that back. That one didn't look.
I'm not seeing wow. Are you seeing wow?
What?
I'm seeing a great all-around football player. We didn't have no track times on this.
No, that he looked almost hurt on that one.
He attended a camp at Georgia in June 20th of 2023.
When did he get his offer from Georgia?
Got his offer. Got to go to the next page.
Okay, so it was way before.
He got his offer from Georgia May 9th of 2023.
So a month before.
May, camped in June. They like the tape now. All right, that's some juice. I'm still not cribbing, though. Huh.
It's not otherworldly.
No, it's not. Not yet.
Mute your lav.
Yeah. Hope it wasn't muted the whole time. Anyways. There's so much reverb on all the microphones, they probably heard me anyways.
They were just saying something.
All right.
Come on, let me see a route here.
Yeah, I'm trying to see something like, whoa.
I mean, that's a good inside break.
Yeah, it is. All right, let's see you track this football. Cover some ground. It's a punt.
Yeah.
Pick it up on the bounce. Okay, we
slowed
slow-mo
it
it.
down.
Yank.
He's twitchy.
Yeah, he is. Short area quickness. That's why I think this is a nickel for them. I'm not seeing true safety or true corner here. Because here's the deal. Oh, my God, good block out on the edge. At Georgia, to play corner, you got to be 6'1 plus, sub 10'8 in the 100 to play corner. To play safety, you got to be about 6'1 plus, got to be about 200 pounds plus, and you got to be sub 11 seconds in the 100. That's what you have to do to check boxes at Georgia to play those positions. We don't have track times on this guy, but he doesn't meet the length requirements to play corner. He certainly meets the athletic traits requirement and football player trait requirement to play star at the University of Georgia.
Come on, crib this.
Yeah, you got to crib this.
He did.
All right.
He's got enough.
He's got enough. 24/7 seems to believe he is a Notre Dame lean.
Yes.
We'll see. All right. Hate to call it okay, but we've seen some crazy shit on this channel lately.
Yeah, I mean,
we have.
Man.
Some of the stuff we've been watching recently has been pretty crazy.
If the CJ Wiley tape was stupid.
Yeah.
The Todd Robinson tape looked better than that in terms of just ball in his hand. What's he do?
Duke Johnson tape was good.
Yeah. We've watched some good ones around here, so it's a high bar. Not saying he's not a great player. He obviously is. I think he's a nickel. Okay, I think he's a star that needs about 20 pounds before he gets onto the field in college. All right, let's talk about Bill Norton. For those of you who don't know, Bill Norton has committed to the University of Texas. And some people will say, what? How? Who?
That Bill Norton?
That Bill Norton?
The rapper?
Yeah, the producer, not a rapper.
That's right.
You know,
I got him and Wix Patton mixed up.
Yeah. But anyways, shout out Wix Patton. Crazy how you just go viral one time.
Yeah.
And it's like a career now.
Yeah.
Anyways, that'd be nice. You know, should go viral once. The only time I've ever went viral was saying that Alabama was going to stomp the ever-loving doggy shit out of Michigan. And I also went viral for the sign stealing situation.
Oh, yeah.
Did a mill on that one.
Nice.
So, anyways, Bill Norton. First off, the news today that he is 6'6", 325 pounds kind of threw me off.
Threw everybody
I've seen Bill
off.
Norton a lot in my life.
Did he
6'6", didn't see that.
Did he stretch when he was at Arizona?
I guess he did. Also, never thought he was that big, but also, I said it earlier, Bill Norton is an example of a football player who understands that college is probably the last time I'm ever going to strap it on. Mm-hmm. So I better milk this thing for everything that it is worth.
Hey,
spend a year at Arizona. Now I'm going to spend a year at Texas.
And he's doing it the right way, man. I mean, he got to be a Georgia national title contender. Okay, let's go seek some PT at Arizona. Okay, last year
10-game winner.
Let's go back into the SEC for another national title contender. Maybe I get myself he was there for both rings, right?
Yeah, he left early on the second.
He hit the portal before.
Yeah,
he might have gotten a ring.
No, he was. I don't know, man. He was the first one to hit the portal.
You're right.
Did it ugly, too.
So he got one ring. Now he can maybe get a second one. Now he's at Texas. So doing all the right things. Doing it right.
And producing sick beats while doing so.
It's tough.
The general talking point here, though, is how does a football player what should we think about a football player who appeared on the surface to never be available or never able to crack the lineup at the University of Georgia, but goes and plays for a 10-game winner and then goes and and presumably is going to get playing time on a Texas roster that's now in your conference? Like, does that say anything about your defensive line room at Georgia?
Well, he was in a room at the time that was loaded with a bunch of first rounders. It was an unfortunate time for someone like him to be in that room because it was a tough way to get any type of playing time, even getting a snap amongst that room. Then you also had Bear Alexander towards the end of his time at Georgia was starting to creep up into the lineup. He was getting snaps at the time. I mean, just the young guys and even the older guys during his time at Georgia. It was just a tough way to find playing time. So, I mean, it makes sense for why you would go to Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at that 2021, 2022 defensive line room, it was just talent and not just like talent on talent, like some of the most ferocious defensive linemen college football seen in the last 10 years on talent. So I understand why he transferred, and I think that it's a testament to the talent Georgia brings in, and just have to understand that there are certain players that want to play for as long as they can and are going to seek other opportunities to do it.
Yeah, you had to go get playing time if you were him because, you know, Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse are still on this roster.
Exactly.
Those are two football players who, by the way, got to Georgia after Bill Norton. Okay, Bill Norton enrolled at Georgia May of 2019. That's how long it's been. Okay.
Wow.
And those two guys that I'm just talking about, they're still on the roster. Those guys were recruited near or around or after Bill Norton, and they're still there. So you would presume he'd still be on the bench at the University of Georgia. And now he's presumably going to be one of the premier nose tackles for Texas. It's weird, though. They've dipped into Arizona's roster twice now for the same position. They took
You got to keep going.
Tio Lee Sevilla. Tio Lee Sevilla, 6'6", 305-pound nose tackle out of Arizona, and now took this football player as well, and Bill Norton. You taking two interior nose tackle body types tells me that Sadir Mitchell was a whiff. Whiff. Now, that might not be a name to the national audience, but the Georgia folks understand who that is. Sadir Mitchell was a nose tackle out of Bergen Catholic. That was the highest rated nose tackle in the 2022 signing class, okay? Was down to Georgia, Texas, and Texas A&M and Miami. Was committed to Georgia at one point and then ends up at Texas and was a massive kind of loss for Georgia in that class because they were trying to take as many nose tackles as they could. They end up, taking Jamal Jarrett in that class. We're trying to take two in that class. Sadir Mitchell doesn't look like he's panning out there at Texas. And that's an expensive miss from what I remember on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, how that storyline is commits to Georgia. Obviously, ratings go through the roof for him. Everybody's like, oh, the typical Georgia bump. And then everybody was trying to get their hands in on it. And everybody
Texas
did. Yeah, they did.
Went down to Miami and was like, Coach, you ain't going to believe what Miami offered me. And Georgia was like, man, you're going to have a good time in Coral Gables. And then about 2 weeks later, it was like, hey, Coach, man, you ain't going to believe what Texas offered me. Well, enjoy them, baby. Hook them. Hook them. Go on, get them.
I love you.
Go on, get them. Yeah, that's a thing in my family. We're big I love you hand gesture folks. But anyways, yeah, big expensive miss for Texas. Unless they've reset that salary out there, which they might have already.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of that going on nowadays in college football.
As I said, the way it sounds is that if you're not living up to your hype, they're like, hey, listen, that NIL package we got you,
they're going to rescind that offer.
It's funny to look back on this because it went officially visits Georgia, then he goes to Texas A&M, which this was Texas A&M 2022, and then you go to Miami, and then you go to Texas.
Basically, so I remembered it correctly.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, do I want to be a good football player, or do I want to make a lot of money for being a good football player? He chose a lot of money. All right, so that's just always, I always see like you took a really, really highly rated nose tackle in a system that plays a really big nose tackle. And then 18 months later, you go out and take two transfers at the really big nose tackle position. You whiffed on Sadir Mitchell. It seems on the surface. Could be totally wrong. Could come out and look like Devontae Sweat. Doesn't sound like it's looking like that based off the actions. Speaking of, doesn't necessarily look like that just yet. Carson Beck, Greg McElroy said, has the opportunity and could very well be the number 1 overall draft pick next year in the NFL draft. And I'm going to go on and say it. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. I don't think it's absurd. In fact, we've talked about how we believe him to be QB1. And oh, by the way, there are a shitload of football teams that are going to suck in the NFL this year that don't have a quarterback. The Cardinals probably going to suck. Now, they've attached themselves to Kyler Murray, but what is that? Okay, they got that one. The Titans, probably going to be bad again this year, you would imagine. The Giants, Pats, Broncos, Raiders, if you don't draft a quarterback this year, we presume you to be in the market for one next year. So there's going to be a lot of mediocre to bad NFL teams that are at the availability to draft a quarterback at the top of next year's draft. So it's not out of the realm. My question to the room and my question to the chat as we go over our time slot here tonight, what does Carson actually have to do to be the number 1 overall pick?
Consistently hit your deep shots.
That's it. That's what I got.
That's literally it. That's the last thing you got to check off.
I have 2 things, but go ahead.
Have a 4,000-yard season, throw for 30 touchdowns, like if that.
Do what you did last year and hit your deep shots.
Pretty much.
2% better than you were last year.
Shout out to the 2%.
Not have someone have an absurd Joe Burrow-like season and surpass you.
That's a good one as well. I think the other area of improvement is, and I'm not expecting the world to change here, but just become like 5% better of an athlete. You don't even have to move better. Just move when you need to move. Be better managed at your athleticism, I should say, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, there's grass. I got to take it now. Let's go. Okay, just general things like that. The thing that, year 1 to year 2 is Stet. It was like, hey, can we clean up these like random full-on quarters, sometimes halves, where you just don't look like yourself at all? Yeah. Like you look like you might cost us a football game in the middle of October. Can we remove that? That was with Step, but we never saw any of that. Like, hey, this has got to get fixed now from Carson. The confidence has got to get better, and with the confidence, I would imagine becomes a little bit bigger of a leadership role.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Oh, damn, that's kind of fire. Somebody just sent me a photo of myself.
Lovely.
Wow.
And I don't look massively fat.
So you said, well, that's fired of a picture.
I do look like, somebody in the middle of the show. I do feel like I'm in heavy thought, though, in this photo. So there's that. All right. We good?
I'm good.
I'm good. Hey, the spring tour starts tomorrow. Jonesboro High School. I'm coming in hot. 4:30. We'll see you.